now. So, hello, everybody. I'm Johnny Walker Dread. I think most people know me. If you're here, you probably do. But I have my YouTube channel, Johnny Walker Dread, mostly devoted to stuff like Kyle Rittenhouse and various shootings and stuff that have uh, cropped up over the last couple of years and stuff. I have like 500 videos now. So if you're interested in takes on Kyle Rittenhouse and what have you, go to my channel and sit back and watch. So, how about you, Sean? We'll just go around. We'll introduce ourselves. Oh, I have to record this. Did I record it? Oh, it's already recording. Yeah.
Is recording? Okay. Um,
Yeah. Go
this should
ahead,
be
Sean.
me or the other guy. The other one's Sean too. So
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
of course.
So
Go ahead. Go
You
ahead.
can
okay.
refer to me as Excel.
Okay. All right. Hi everybody. My name's Sean Martin. I have the channel Potentially Criminal. Cover a lot of criminal defense related topics, but also other stuff that's going on. My YouTube channel's right there, doing pretty good. It's been a pretty impressive past like month and a half for things overall. I would say in my world. So yeah, give me a like, give me a subscribe if you like what I got, and try to cover a trial. Usually if there's something running, and right now I will say sorry, but Amber Heard and Johnny Depp have pretty much sucked up all the coverage. So I'm just churning out videos on my own.
Hey, you were on Nick Rahita's channel, weren't you? Talk
Yeah,
about that a little.
I got on with him. Oh gosh, it's been beginning of the month. Actually, wait, yeah, it's still April. Still April till tomorrow. Yeah, that was a pretty fun experience. Seemed like he had a pretty good time. So who knows? Maybe get to going again at some point. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I couldn't believe that 4.5 hours went by as fast as it did. But it was just like I know
Oh,
Nate probably
yeah.
had that feeling when he's been on with Nick.
Yes.
So
Nick's a great guy.
yeah, he is. He is very great. But yeah,
All right.
since
Did you?
then, been popping in on like if he's got stuff going on with the Johnny Depp trial and whatnot. So you guys may see me there.
Okay. Did you get a lot of subscribers over that?
Yes, that's putting it mildly. Yeah, I went from like I started out April with like probably I don't know 800, and now I'm up to like 3,500.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, a lot of that came from Ricada, but also I've been on some of the Johnny Depp stuff, so people are showing up from there. So it's been kind of cool.
With me, it's like about every week I'll say, "Hey, I got a subscriber."
Well, that's how it was for a while. I'm like, oh my god, it went up like two, and then I went out with Nick, and by the time I got done, I looked and my girlfriend's like, oh my god, check your count, and all of a sudden it was just like,
Yes.
so
All right, Excel. How about you?
Hey, I'm Excel at Sean Tizzle on Twitter. I spent a couple years in the past covering critical theory on a YouTube channel called Irate Prostate, but due to unfortunate events, I have not been streaming lately. I was one of the early adopters to Johnny Walker Dread's channel, which is how we know each other. Uh, Mostly because I saw a lot of overlap with the kind of stuff he was covering about what was going on with the Kyle Rittenhouse case and the kind of things I see being pushed in our institutions about critical theory. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you'll just see lots of snarky comments and me complaining about social justice warriors.
There you go. All right, Nathan.
My name's Nathan DeBruin. I'm a photojournalist and photographer from Kenosha, Wisconsin, mostly known for the Rittenhouse trial that I was in as a witness. Currently, I am actually in downtown Chicago. I have a project I'm working on tomorrow morning. So I'm excited and looking forward to that.
Is that a real backdrop?
Yes,
yeah, it looks
Wow.
pretty
So
cool.
it's thunder. It's lightning there, huh?
it is. It is lightning, yes.
Doggone it! I missed that, and I didn't get any here. So can you tell us about the project you're working on, or is that kind of hush hush?
It's kind of hush hush right now. So in a couple weeks I should be rolling it out.
All right, good deal, good deal. Well, there are three major topics we wanted to talk about, but hey, I'm open for anything that anybody wants to get on, and including the chat thing. So if you have any questions, by all means, post it in there. I'll keep an eye on that, and I'd appreciate it if the other guys, the other hosts in here, if you see a question you want to go post it up for us to respond to, let me know because through these sunglasses, it's not exactly easy to see the questions. So I miss a lot of them. And so there's three major things that we wanted to talk about. One is the Doritos chips bandit. Like an 8-year-old kid got picked up for stealing a bag of chips out of a convenience store, and the cops arrived. And they pretty much, in my opinion, did what cops typically do in these situations. They put you in the back of the squad car and you take you home. However, this kid, I guess, didn't want to go. And so the cops had to manhandle him. And that got everybody all flustered. So we could talk about that. There's also the Patrick Lyoya shooting. And that's going to be a big deal, I have a feeling. As you mentioned, Excel, it's got just the right amount of, I would say, clickbait for both sides, to
Yep.
where you can get some real controversy and some real disputes going. And I've had like 3 or 4 videos recently on it. And then there's some news that's come out recently we can talk about as well. And then there's the government, the disinformation.
Governance
Sean,
board.
you tell me.
Yes,
Go
the
ahead.
Disinformation Governance Board from the Department of Homeland Security.
So you've actually been talking about that on your channel lately?
What's rendering right now, but I put something together today talking about it, but holy shit, this is scary.
Well, I'll tell you
And
what,
who's
why don't you go
running
ahead?
is scary.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess we'll start off with the scary and depressing stuff first. So the Department
Okay,
of Homeland
before you
Security...
begin,
Oh.
I have to tell everybody there has to be like a fright release. I'm not held responsible for any nightmares or anything that results from his description of what the government is about to do to us. There you go.
Thank you.
Your
Thank
turn.
you. So the government the Department of Homeland Security is putting together a Disinformation Governance Board. It's going to be headed by this woman named Nina Jankowicz, who is, if you guessed it, probably some millennial. Yes, you're 100% correct. She's a little bit younger than me. And her goal, and the goal of this, is to tackle disinformation primarily involving the Russians and immigration issues. I'm not really sure how they're going to define that, because the woman herself admits to her disinformation doesn't necessarily mean false things. It means also things that exacerbate and seed chaos and division. So
Even if they're
it
true.
could be the truth. It could be the truth, just an uncomfortable truth. And I include it. And she talks. She is also a personality who views that it's hard to be a woman on the internet, and she feels that the Violence Against Women Act needs to include abuse on the internet, for example. So for her, violence are words and words are violence. And this person's going to have authority. We don't know the full scope of what this agency is going to be able to do, what this board can do. But it's part of the DHS. They have their own agents. And what happens if they label you as disinformation? Well, now the government, I think, is effectively suppressing you. That's not their job. And then what happens if they try to suppress you and you tell them, no, fuck you guys? They're going to have to, they're not just going to let that go. They're the government. So they're going to do something about it. And where does this lead? Eventually it's going to lead to, oh, well, we got a court order stopping, Sean from being a disinformation person. What happens when I ignore the court order? There are going to be men with guns showing up stopping me. Mm-hmm. And then you run into the big issue of what happens when the government's wrong? Because they're wrong often. In fact, they're the ones creating the lie. So what does that do? Well, they're never going to admit to it. And it's going to... people are worried about Elon Musk using Twitter against people he doesn't like. An agency like this, or a board like this, or a group like this would be more devastating than the IRS or the FBI to be used against people. I can only imagine, I hope I'm wrong, but I can't imagine it's going to get any better from here on out. Especially the next 2 years. It's going to be a wild ride. So
the other thing about it is you create a governmental power that transcends one president to the other. So let's suppose that Biden is Mr. Nice Guy. The next president might not be. And he's got this powerful tool available at him to him
Exactly.
So yeah,
So, well, there's the other thing that we need to say is the federal government doesn't have the power to do any of the things that you just said. I know they're asserting it,
Well,
and I know
it
that
doesn't have that power, but
they will exercise it, but they don't
yes.
actually have the
Oh,
power.
I agree. Yes, they don't have that power, but that being limited by the Constitution is not something that the government's really been good at. So,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
right.
historically, free speech issues, even left and right, have been
Well,
pretty good on those things, and that has changed dramatically over the last 5 years, where they've
oh,
adopted the idea of repressive tolerance.
yes. Oh, it's
Mhm.
the 5 years, yes, but I mean, even the past year and a half has gone even
It's
worse
just
and
been
worse.
accelerating.
Yeah, yeah. I know there's people out there who are fans of accelerationism, but Jesus Christ, this is bad.
Well, I was
Mhm.
telling Johnny Walker Dread, like you could switch the names out from Ministry of Truth into Orwell's book, and it would mean the exact same thing.
I think Orwell would actually appreciate this name, the Disinformation Governance Board.
Yeah.
He's probably
I
thinking, "Damn it, why didn't I think of
Oh,
that?"
I think he would. I think there's so much stuff that's come out. He would have been like, "I like that," and then he'd be terrified to find out it's a real thing.
Well,
I would have
and
loved to have been in that boardroom when they came up with the name because
Yeah.
of all of the ones that they had to throw away because it was obviously too alarmist,
Yes.
right? And they finally settled on this thing. What is the weakest sounding thing that we can make up for this?
Yes.
And
You know.
they found one.
Yeah.
well, so
Go ahead, Excel.
the problem is it's not that weak though. Like disinformation and misinformation,
Mm-hmm.
since those words have just like I guarantee you if we did like a Google search for how many times the word has been used in news articles, it would have skyrocketed in the last 2 years or 3 years. And they've all been used as something that's asserted but never proven.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It's just automatically used to just shut down something.
Exactly.
All right.
And you can only imagine that a government board named after that, I mean, that's what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just only imagine how it's. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do, but I can't imagine it's any better than what's happened so far. I mean, the Silicon Valley suppressed Hunter Biden's laptop on their own. Imagine what they can do with the government at their side.
I mean, we can go back further than that, right? They
Oh
lied
yeah,
about
yeah.
Trump and Russia. They
Oh yeah, they
basically
did,
lied
but
about the whole Ukraine thing. They lie.
but
They constantly just exaggerate and lie about what happened on January 6th.
oh, definitely, definitely.
Mhm.
But I think especially something like Hunter Biden's laptop, where they just literally agreed to nuke. They all agreed to do it. I think there were differing levels of how they police it, but yeah, it's just not good. I don't see it ending well, but thank God, if Elon does get Twitter, I think that resets things for a little bit, but it's not the stopping of it.
It's
No, although I'm looking forward to it
Oh, I
because,
am.
I mean, to be honest with you, and YouTube's the same way. Um, the fact that I come from a decided standpoint that they don't agree with has really cut into my ability to even grow. I mean, I have like 250 followers on Twitter, 250 after like 3 years, because I've been pretty much shadow banned. I forget what they call that. I'm looking for the opportunity for my tweets and responses to actually be able to be viewed by people. That would be great. And then YouTube, well, you all know that my success there. I have 320 followers after 2 years at 500 videos. And the reason why is because of their algorithms have a very subtle way of just keeping things down low enough. So if you look for my stuff, you'll find it, but you're not going to stumble on it, not very easily. Nathan, you're going to say something, I think, and I think I interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, good deal. But yeah, I looked to, and everybody's like talking about, well, this looks like something like Goebbels. This is very Stalinist, in my view. This is exactly, I mean, even the name is
Yes.
is almost harkens back to the Soviet Union days.
Mm-hmm.
And you could feel like the NKVD is going to be knocking on your door at 3 a.m. kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that won't happen now, but where does this go?
There isn't a big enough piece of wood to knock on for that. So be
Mhm.
careful. Be careful what you say.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I don't know where this goes, but yeah, this is not, yeah, Goebbels isn't close. I mean, remember, these people are collectivist, leftist, they like to not think they're communists or they'd be the good communists, but yes, this is more akin to the Bolsheviks and Stalin than it is to the Nazis. I mean, just the way they're going to suppress things and I mean, they're almost to the point where they will unpeople someone. I mean, Alex Jones, I mean, he got unpersoned basically. I mean, you don't hear about him anymore except when something bad is happening to him.
Oh,
And that really akins me more to the Russians than the way the Germans did it, because the Russians were great at unpersoning people, left and right.
Yeah, like they're rubbing out the pictures. Like, wait a minute, I thought there were two people in this
Yeah,
photograph.
yeah, the missing commissar. Yeah, that's the most famous example.
Yezhov, was it? Yeah, I think it
I
was
think so.
Yezhov, where like he's gone.
Yep.
But here's the thing that kind of I noticed. They listed two major topics that really concerned them the most. We have to have this disinformation bureau because these two major topics are just crippling, the safety of the world or whatever. One was the whole Russian thing, right? And the other one was immigration. We have to put a stop to people telling everybody that going to the United States, smuggling in is a good thing or something. And I'm thinking, you can't get more disingenuous. You know damn well that that's not what you're doing this for.
Yeah.
The whole coyote thing. Well, we have to stop these coyotes from bringing people into the country illegally on these false premises or promises. That's not what you're worried about. That is a design to, placate the right to kind of take the wind out of their sails, so that the left can say, well, you do realize that this is going to stop the immigration thing. Right? I thought you'd be supportive of that. That is not the main reason why they brought this thing in.
Yeah, if they would have came out and said this is limited to just foreign actors, particularly foreign governments that are using social media platforms in America to spread truly disinformation, like actual lies, I would understand. Like, well, actually, not. I wouldn't understand. I still wouldn't like it, but at least that's plausible. That's a sell. But then they tack on this immigration thing, which lets you know it's about more than just foreign influence.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
believe
they're going to
me.
come after American citizens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely they are.
They're not concerned about having people immigrating in the United States. That's not what Biden's worried about. So and that's the whole disingenuousness of the whole thing. I mean, whatever reason why you want this board, tell us the truth about it. Of course, that kind of runs counter to their whole methodology anyway,
yes, it's
right?
Very antithetical.
So what do you see this doing in 10 years from now? What do you think it's going to be like?
I can't imagine, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't think it's going to be good. I mean, do I think it'll operate as like a soft hand after a while? Sure, and people might get used to it, and I could see people posting things and there'll be government warnings attached to them and crap like that. And I'd love to hope the Supreme Court stands up to it and crushes it, but I'm not holding out. I'm not holding out for that either. So, I mean, I really hope this is gone.
I guess call me the optimist.
Yeah.
Call me the optimist, but I don't think it lasts to past 2024.
I really hope to God it does, but I don't know. If you'd asked me, 15 years ago when I was in college where things were, I would have not believed you in the slightest bit where we are now.
The crazy part of it is that this is the kind of thing they warned us that Trump would put in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
that was all
Hitler.
confession by projection.
Yes. Yeah. This is something the Nazis would do, especially the evil orange Hitler man. But I guess it's okay when we do it.
Because he's anti-foreign. So
bigoted, racist, sexist, and homophobe. He's just mean.
Yeah, almost any time, like these days, I hear people, particularly from the left, they say that, oh, these people are going to do X, Y, and Z. if I know those people aren't actually going to do it, like all they're really saying is like, well, if I had that power, that's what I would do for my side.
Yep, exactly.
And they would do it with a smile on their face because they think they're doing God's work.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've always said, like, where did the NKVD get its henchmen, right? Because if you're going to suppress people, and boy, did they ever. I mean, I've read a lot about the NKVD and the KGB, and the horrors of living under those tyrannies was incredible. But you have to wonder, where did they get the people to carry this thing out? It turns out they're ordinary people. They didn't empty the insane asylums looking for people. It was ordinary people who just bought into the ideology.
Exactly.
It's amazing. If you get a person who's just politically driven enough, you can make that person do some really horrendous things.
Well, true believers will do anything you ask them.
Mm-hmm. And if they have sufficient hatred for the other side, yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, like I've always said, like, you have your true believers, and then you have your mass populace, which will just buy into it to the extent where they say, well, these people really believe it, so I guess I'm going to go along with it. And that's how it's allowed to spread.
Oh, yeah. Anybody else, any comments on the government? No, it's the Disinformation Governance Board.
Yes.
I'm just going to be...
Get it right, Johnny.
I'm going to be really interested to see how this plays out. Especially, you were talking about the person they picked. Like, she seems like your typical far left loon.
Oh, she is. Her TikTok is insane. Like, she's got TikTok where it's clear she doesn't like the Orange Man. She's railed on and on about it. I mean, she actually gave a thing, like, in 2020 during the elections where she said this type of thing scares her and she doesn't want the government to have this kind of power. But you can tell for her it's just, it's, oh, really, until we get it and until she's sure Trump's not going to have it. So it's very telling. It's very telling.
Well, I've
and
always
I included
said that
in my video.
Yeah. I've always said that these fascist techniques that they complain about, they just want to be able to do it themselves because they find out that these are very effective. They don't like it when it's done to them, obviously. I mean, nobody would. But when they get the chance, they think, yeah, so, book burning, I think the Nazis had it right all along because these Trumpers are out there putting out this information and stuff. Is there any way that we could just get rid of it? It just turns out that these techniques are done by tyrannies because they are very effective. And they just want their chance to do it themselves.
Yeah, I think I've talked about the paper before. James Lindsay's the one that brought it to attention to me, but Herbert Marcuse's repressive tolerance paper was all about basically saying the fascists were so effective in their suppression of information that counters their arguments that we should copy them in order to enact communism. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Just to let everybody know, I don't have anybody captive behind me in a cage or anything like that. I think XL, you have your nephew with you. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm trying to mute when I can. If you hear them while they're talking, you'll hear them. They're leaving here in a second.
Oh, that's okay. So. That's okay.
Oh, it's fine.
But he sounds like he's having a good time.
Yes.
Yep, he's playing the Switch.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, but no, you're exactly right, Excel. And I have not read that study, but I knew about it. But yeah, they see what the Germans did, and they're like, oh wow, this is a really good idea. They see something horrible and think it's an instruction manual, not a weary tale of danger. So, yeah, that's just how they operate.
Oh yeah. Looks like we lost Nathan.
Oh.
I guess hopefully he'll come back in here in a few minutes.
Sure.
Anything else on the the Disinformation Governance Board?
Just if they're ever looking at this some point in the future, fuck you guys. Come after me.
I know. Oh boy. Now you know why they want gun control.
Yeah.
It's just, take away their guns and then we'll strip them of their freedom of speech as well.
Yes.
And yeah, oh man, I mean, it's supposedly about foreign messages, but how soon before it becomes us?
Well, when they start talking about immigration, that makes me concerned because
Mhm.
that doesn't have to be foreign. That's here. Oh, you can't say anything bad about immigration. So I just wonder how long. Just like everything else the government's done, the Patriot Act, the war on drugs, it's always expanded into something else too. So, but that's where, like I said, I agree with I agree with Excel. Got to kind of be positive in the meantime.
Yeah, I on this one in particular because it's freedom of speech. I just don't think normal people are going to go for it. I don't think, like I said, most of these people they don't actually buy into this critical theory, postmodern nonsense like this crazy secretary of this disinformation council is going to be. Um, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be widely unpopular, and I already know that Republicans already are ready to shut it down via, what they actually absolutely have the power to do, which is say the DHS does not have the authority to do what this council's doing.
Yep, and I
And that's
can't wait
it.
to see this person in front of Congress. Actually be forced to answer for what she's advocating for.
Oh, I kind of am excited about it because
Oh no, that's what I say. I
her
can't
answers
wait.
are going to be crazy.
Oh yeah, no, they're gonna be bad. But no, that's what I mean. Like I can't wait for it. I can't wait to see what she does.
I hope somebody just asks her what is a woman.
Oh, we gotta cut that kind of talk out. Where's the
Well,
where's the disinformation governance board when you need them?
I did some reading up on her. She's like a literature major, so she's definitely not a biologist. So that's not a fair question to ask her.
Yep.
Because you have to have a degree.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Do you want to move on, or you want to
I'm good.
continue on?
I'm good to move on. Whatever you are.
What
It's
about
your
you,
world.
Excel? Well, no. I mean, we want to talk about what everybody wants to talk about, right?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
move on.
Okay. So we have the Patrick Lyoya shooting. Now, I don't know how much everybody knows about it, but this has been big news.
Yes, it has.
Um, so I don't know if I need to show like a video that demonstrates what this is about, but I can do a share here. Um,
I,
what
you know,
about you, Excel? Are you familiar with this event?
So I am familiar with the event and everything I've read about it. I find it wholly uninteresting from like a perspective of whether the cop was justified or not. I find it obvious that the cop was justified because we can see the dude getting a hold of the taser, right? That's it,
yes.
right? The taser goes off, that cop is dead.
Hmm.
But other than that, I mean, the only thing I have to say about it is, of course, they're gonna pick this one because, like I said, it's just there's just enough there that you can stir a controversy, right? You can
Yes.
actually sway people to say that this wasn't justified or sway other people to say it was justified.
Exactly.
That's why they picked to cover it.
Yeah, and I did a video where they had this Michael Steinberg, a professor out of the University of Michigan. He's a law professor, and he went on to say that this was obviously an execution, and that's how they're viewing it. That, well, he could have shot him in the butt or shot him in the shoulder, but we all know that deep down, murder was in his heart. It's like, okay. So there's some interesting news that's come out about the police officer. I don't know if you heard about this.
No, I haven't heard anything.
He's an African missionary. You can't make this up.
I
He
thought you were gonna
goes.
tell me like he saved like a bus full of burning puppies, but that's pretty close.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. And by the way, I'll put on the. Let me go ahead and I'll see if I can find it here. Oh, there it is. Okay. So let me go back. I think I'll kind of share this. I'm not real slick when it comes to this kind of thing, so I kind of stumble around a lot. And There it is. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see this. Do you see the Newsweek headline?
Yep.
All right. So who is Christopher Schur? That's the police officer, obviously, who shot Patrick Lyoya. And he found out a lot more information about him. So let me scroll on down. So interestingly enough, he's a pole vaulter. He set like conference record in the pole vault. Okay. I mean, I find that to be somewhat interesting, but it's obviously not relevant.
That's the sign
So-
of people who are trying to find something bad on him and they couldn't.
That's right. So he told M Live that he was planning to marry his high school sweetheart during a missionary trip to Africa that year. I guess that was last year. Couldn't afford a wedding and a trip, so he decided to combine both of them. And by the way, he said, me and my fiance, Brandy, why did they name her? I mean,
You gotta
that's
dox,
just,
that's you gotta dox people. That's just like Taylor Lorenz.
I mean, I wonder if she's going to be hearing any news from people, some
Oh,
opinions.
We just report the news, Johnny.
Dude,
we're not. Yeah.
hold on for a second. I thought that advertisement picture was a picture of his wife, and I was like, man, they even include a picture, and she's hot.
Yeah. But yeah, Johnny, it's just like when Taylor Lorenz with that Libs a TikTok person. Hey, I'm just reporting the news.
Yeah.
It just happened to be that I doxed a person, but hey, I mean, I think it's newsworthy who this person's family is and where they work and what they do and what you should or shouldn't do about it.
Dude, that Taylor Lorenz stuff she is the embodiment of that meme. I'm sure you guys have seen it where somebody's like shoveling shit over to the internet and then the internet throws shit back at her and she's like, misogyny.
Yeah.
That is Taylor Lorenz.
Well, or like Sam Hyde said best, the liberal cries out in pain as they strike you. And I mean, that's her to a T. 1 week she's crying about getting bullied and the next minute she's trying to out a woman to the world.
I wouldn't feel bad about mistaking that girl there for his wife because I thought Heidi Merrick, never heard of her. Man, I wouldn't look. It's a clothing line. So, yeah. Sure said they also plan to wear traditional African outfits at their wedding. We're going to do a wedding their style. I have an African outfit already.
Whoa.
And
now, hold on. This is
I was
proof
about to
he's
say-
racist. That is cultural
Oh, yeah.
appropriation.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
my
about to say, I'm
God.
like,
Yeah. This goes against him, not for him.
yeah, you gotta be careful there, dude.
Well, keep in mind, he is an African missionary. So he's like embedded in that culture to a certain extent. He's not a visitor.
That.
I know. I get it.
I'm just like,
But but he says, I have an African outfit already, and my fiance will pick out some fabric and she'll make a Kenyan style dress. Oh, man.
yeah.
And so let's go ahead and stop the share here. And again, I'm really clumsy with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I read is the guy didn't even have any complaints against him ever in the history of his time as a police officer.
Which is impossible. I mean, almost impossible, I should say.
I know, right? Like, usually at least there's like one person that was just butthurt that they got caught.
Well, I bring up the whole African missionary thing because the law professor at the University of Michigan, that Michael Steinberg, said, well, we really do need to bring up the issue of whether he racially profiled this dude to get his license plates, right? You got to run the plates. Why did he choose this guy to run his plates on? And I don't think that a person who's a African missionary, a Christian who goes to Africa to help, like communities there, is going to racially profile people in his own hometown.
Exactly.
I don't see that happening.
He also probably didn't have a fucking clue what race the dude was because the windows of that car were probably pretty tinted and he was behind him.
Yeah.
And they also
cops, if cops are behind you, they're going to run your plates. It's happened to me. One of the most the oddest things that happened is I got pulled over because they ran my plates, and I was actually in my sister's car when she was in high school. Like, this was a long time ago. So I was borrowing my sister's car, and like, she's 16. They ran my plates, and it came back matching an armed robbery suspect, which was
How did that happen?
I have no clue.
Whoops.
Like, they had to have like, whatever plates they captured, they had to have misread it. And I remember my dad forever, because my sister got pulled over for the same thing later, and my dad had to like just yell and scream for them to, you know, take this off their record, like they've got the wrong license plate. Because like, the guy, nobody even knew who the guy was that they were naming. They're like, do you know a guy named this? We're like, no.
You know Knuckles Grogan? No. By the way, Honeymooners fans will know that one. But yeah, but by the way, new information has come out about Patrick Lyoya. And of course, we've been hearing for the last week about all the wonderful things that he was. And okay, that's fine. If you want to go into his background and divulge some of the great things about him. But if you find negative things, isn't it incumbent upon you to display that as well? And all of a sudden, no, the rules change. That's not relevant, whatever. But it turns out that, and I hope this isn't like dated information. In other words, everybody already knows this, but it turns out he had 2 warrants out for his arrest when they pulled him over. One for a DUI and one for domestic violence. Turns out he's already been convicted of domestic violence once. He had a warrant out for his arrest for another one. That's why he didn't want to get arrested, and that's why he didn't want to give his driver's license, which, by the way, had been revoked.
Makes a lot of sense.
And this is not stuff coming through Twitter. This was actually reported in, I think it was AP. So yeah, he has a record. Go ahead.
There was one thing I was going to add to that. Like, tell me if this is true or not. I heard somewhere that he'd also had a history of being convicted for car theft.
I have heard that, but nothing official that I've seen indicates
I haven't
it.
heard any confirmation. So,
And that's too easy of a kind of a fib to make up, because switched plates, right? It's not hard for somebody to just put 1 and 1 together and get 5, and say, well, he was probably driving a stolen car, and then that becomes he had prior arrests for stolen cars. That's how it goes. But
so there was
I have
no
not
confirmation.
found,
There's no confirmation.
I have not found anything about car theft officially. And I think that if he had been, that probably would have surfaced. But whatever the case, oh, and by the way, 3 convictions for DUI. So yeah, he had some troubles. Keep in mind, he's only been in this country for about 5 years.
Where is he from?
Hang on, the Congo.
Okay.
Or I guess they call it the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I really do like the putting the in front of certain things. I can't say Ukraine without the in front of it. The definite article.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the Congo. I want to say Democratic Republic of the Congo, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, like, isn't this is a total tangent, but isn't calling Ukraine the Ukraine come from like the fact that Ukraine means borderlands? So you're calling it the borderlands?
It also comes back to the time where it was a part of the Russian Empire, so it was a region, wasn't a place necessarily.
Do they consider it an offense if you call it that? Or
they do. I mean, they would
really?
look at you and say, "Well, like, it's Ukraine. It's not a prefecture. It's not part of. It's its own country." And I agree. They would look at it the same way as the country to ourselves. Would you call it the Mexico or the one to the north, the Canada? No, it's.
I mean,
Canada,
I would, but
Mexico.
I'm an asshole.
Well,
non-assholes
would. But generally speaking, you would address it as Ukraine, and that's, and I understand that to an extent for them. It's also like the way, especially after they've had their color revolutions, they heavily looked towards the Ukrainian spelling of like Kiev is like with Y instead of an I. Um, there's also like some of the other cities. There's Ukrainian spellings for them versus the Russian spellings or the Russian pronunciations that we now use. So it's a cultural thing for them, and I do understand it to an extent because their culture was suppressed a little bit for
Yeah, well, I think we've
good
just said the
75 years.
Ukraine for so long. It's
Yeah.
just kind of hard to say Ukraine. It just feels like that doesn't roll off the tongue very well.
No, it
Anyway,
makes sense to me.
sorry to completely derail the conversation. We can go back to Patrick Lyola.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's all right.
But yeah, I don't know. So, do you think he's going to get charged?
If this was like in
No.
Ann Arbor, probably, but yeah, given where he's at in Michigan, I think he'll be okay. And I don't think he should. I mean, you're gonna have a tough time saying he wasn't in fear of his life or, you know, imminent death or serious bodily injury by doing this.
It's
Yeah,
it's
I just,
it's straight out of like that's the problem is like there's like the textbook for what cops like when they can use that force, right?
yeah,
And when that person grabs a taser, it is considered a deadly weapon.
yeah,
There's nothing you can do to get around that.
yeah. This is about as textbook as it gets. Is like authorization for deadly force for these guys. So
It's like it's not that I even like the fact that the guy got shot. I'm just saying it was almost suicide by cop at that point.
well, it's not even that it was, and I made this argument on my own channel before, but this is one I make to my clients all the time. Like, when you're getting arrested, you got to take your pinch like a man. You're not going to, okay, you might theoretically kick that cop's ass, but in reality, you're probably not. But let's say you did. His buddies are going to show up, and you're going to get Donnybrooke at the very least. They might even kill you. Who knows? Let's say you kick all their asses. Well, then they probably are going to kill you when they send the SWAT team after you. Like, you don't, that's just like Grand Theft Auto. Eventually, there's too many stars. Like, if things are going to go bad, just take your arrest, and then you can deal with it later.
Yeah, I mean that's your job, right? If the cop screwed up, that's your job.
Yeah, or if you didn't screw up, I mean, you gotta, it's just like Goodfellas, gotta take your hit. And I don't know.
And by the way, Chris Dyer says, according to Strategic Eyes, he got caught for stealing 3 cars, but it got pled down to misdemeanors. Maybe true. I just have not found any evidence of it. I mean, I would love to see a link on it. And the fact that the plates were not the right plate, that still has not been explained. I mean, how does that happen?
You put the wrong plates on the car and you hope nobody notices. Because that way it's got a valid registration sticker on it. So most cops, if they don't have plate readers, are just going to read that and say, "Oh, the plate's valid," and ignore it.
Yep, that's exactly why you do it.
What are you trying to get away with?
You can't afford to register all your cars.
Oh, I see that. I got you.
Yeah, or your license is suspended. So, well, if my license is
there
suspended,
you go.
I can't register my car. Oh yeah, I mean that's why I don't know if I don't know how it works in the states you guys live in, but in Ohio we get like a little colored sticker that goes in the corner,
right? And
it's colored per year. But when I get it, I take a razor knife and I scratch it up and cut through it in a couple spots because otherwise people will peel them off and steal them and put it on their car.
Yep, I've had plates. I've had outright my license plates stolen out of my driveway before, and when I lived in shoddy neighborhoods, like people do that stuff all the time in order to put the plates on a stolen car or a car that they couldn't afford to register.
Yep, that's my clients. I have quite a few people that have done that over the years. It's a standard practice.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to do that then. I'm not as devious as you guys. Never would have thought of this.
Oh, it works.
Oh man.
You're learning all the fact
that the officer shot him in the head instead of shoot him in the shoulder or whatever. How do you think that's going to play out?
His job is to stop the threat, and him standing over the back of the guy and popping a couple of rounds into him isn't really much better. I mean, if they claim he used a baton, videotape of him crushing that guy's skull in with a baton as he keeps fighting. I mean, that would be 100 times worse to watch.
Yeah,
They left him with no choice.
the positioning is actually the only thing that makes this controversial, right? Like
Yeah.
if the guy actually had the taser and was away from him and was able to get to the point where the taser was pointing at the cop, which was real
Exactly.
dangerous, like last second, like this would not have made the news. It would have been like, of course, the dude was going to try to taser the cop.
Yes.
Cop gets tasered, drops the. I mean, the cop could be dead, right? So
Yeah.
nobody would be arguing. It's the fact that they were in a kind of a scuffle on the ground and the cop had the top position
Yeah.
whenever he got a hold of the taser and then decided to shoot. Like it's just that was a matter of circumstance, right? The cop realized the dude had the taser. Cop is trained. This guy has a taser. That is a deadly weapon. Like for my own safety, I am authorized to use lethal force. Cop uses lethal force. I mean, that's the end of the story. There's nothing. There's nothing else to make of it, which is why I find this uninteresting. Except for it's another case of. I mean, you may as well call it hands up, don't shoot.
The Michael Brown deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another lie. Like him being executed, execution style. The cop already had him subdued and just decided to shoot him in the head. That's not what happened at all. That is a complete lie.
Yeah, and the fact that they were grappling for so long, I think, works in the cop's favor here. I think that it's pretty clear that the cop was running out of gas really fast, and at that point, how long before the dude does have the upper hand? And I'm thinking it's seconds. Really.
I mean, even if he isn't running out of gas, that can change on a dime. So, I mean that. Yeah, I'm betting he was getting it, but I bet the other guy was tired too. But I guarantee you the cop was getting worried, like, this isn't gonna end well, and I could see him just being worried about that.
Yeah, I mean the amount of time you have to make those decisions. This is another thing. Like people go back to like the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and how Binger was trying to pin Kyle on. Oh well, why did you like shoot the guy? Why didn't you just like fight him or something? Like, was that Binger or was that the?
No, it was Krause where you have to take
Krause.
A beating. Yeah,
like you should take a beating, and I'm just like, dude, you have a split second to make a decision whether you're going to leave your life up to the hands of this person, or in that case, this mob, or if you're going to take action and ensure the safety of your life. And honestly, I think you have a moral obligation in those circumstances to protect your life first.
Yeah, and not to get too much into the Rittenhouse deal, but I don't think the women on the jury really appreciated being told that you just have to take a beating sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like
I'd love to have heard their opinions on that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think my dream interview would be a Kyle Rittenhouse juror. I would love it. Not going to happen.
Especially their lead juror, right? Because she was the one I thought that everybody said we thought was the holdout.
Yeah, we were concerned she was the Karen.
Are you talking about a foreman?
Yep.
Yeah, the foreman. That's what I meant.
I know that was the big concern.
Yeah. Huh. So you think? Well, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but there's been well, I should put it on. There has been an interesting, let's say, distinction between how the mayor talked about this Patrick Lyoya shooting, and I think it's the city commissioner. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, hopefully. Oh, no, I won't be able to. I don't think. I think I pulled up the wrong dealio. Maybe. Hang on. Let's see here. Okay, sorry guys. I thought I had it up and ready, but I don't. But the commissioner was very much pro-police, and then the mayor stepped in and talked about how we can't let this happen anymore and we have to do better. And they're just like, what the hell? I mean, you have to support, your crew at some point. I mean, obviously, you don't want to support those who have clearly done wrong, but I mean, I don't quite get that. Oh, I know what it was. It was the head of the police union that was pro police officer, obviously, and it was the mayor who was really biting into the officer. And that's when I started thinking, hey, this actually might get, let's say, might get some charges thrown at the officer.
Well, Democratic mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the
Yeah,
only what's probably going on there is like they've got to play towards their, and we see this more and more often, is that left wing, right, Democratic politicians play towards their far left, most vocal base. So they're going to come out and say that stuff. But I mean, being a prosecutor in this case, how do you win? Like, I understood how they could win in George Floyd because I could see the argument. Now, I watched the trial and I was convinced there was reasonable doubt. But on this one, there's no reasonable doubt. Like, the guy got a hold of the taser. That means he just grabbed a deadly weapon. You can assume that because he grabbed it from the police officer that he was intending on using it, or at least the police officer is reasonable to assume that. And that is a threat to his life. You can't win that case. Nope. I don't even, like I said, not even Binger would take up this case.
What?
Yeah,
Oh, come on.
I don't
Not
think he
even
would.
Binger?
I don't think he would. Because at least with Kyle Rittenhouse at first, you could just be like, well, hopefully we can gaslight people into just prosecuting them, right? But with this, it has to do with a police officer, and it has to do with other people actually having deadly weapons.
This one. Yeah, this one. But you know what? That's not going to stop them from politically going after somebody if they think it's worth it. I mean, look
That's
what they
what
did
I'm
for
saying.
Kyle. I mean, yeah.
I don't
take a
think
look at Kyle.
I don't think Binger had any idea that Kyle was going to be able to mount a real defense. I think that's part of the reason they went after him. But with the police officers, the police union represents them. So
Well, you
Yeah,
have
but
to be
with
wary. They
Kyle,
might
you
not
had.
present him though.
Oh, really?
I mean, you never know. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time Union tries to screw people over. So
Mm-hmm.
I just think you can't be too careful that they got my back. It's like
you're well, you're right. I shouldn't be so certain that they're not going to do anything, right? I would say
yeah.
I think the chances are like 20% that they prosecute.
Oh, I think that's realistic. Yeah, it's probably like 20-30%. But I mean, if a couple more things happen and we get another repeat of 2020 again, summer wise, I could see them going after him just to catch up.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, with Kyle, you had everything on video. That seemed to be a much tougher nut to crack. Everything's on video here,
Yes.
but that whole execution style thing. I mean, Kyle didn't do that,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see. Oh, let me put it this way, Sean. How, and I mean by that, potentially criminal here.
Yeah.
How would you, if you were a prosecutor, go after this cop?
I think the one thing you might argue is and I've thought about this, the point where he grabs his gun, he's only got one hand controlling the guy. Well, if you got one hand controlling that guy, then are you really fighting for your life at that moment? And I think the point is that both those guys were trying to figure out what their next move was, and they were both trying to figure out what to do. But I think that's an argument they can make is that he didn't go to his, pepper spray, which would have blasted them both. So there's no way the cop's going to do that. Or I think they're going to say, why don't you just use your club and start beating him in the head? Now, it's just like Rittenhouse where they're going to say, oh, you have to take a beating. And that's not at all anything that makes sense. And just, I can see them trying to make that argument, and just, I don't think a jury would buy it, but if you wanted to go down that road, you would. I mean, I think that's kind of where you have to.
You make extra legal arguments to play to the jury's emotions.
Sure. But you would focus on the fact that he didn't have to use the gun because he wasn't like holding on with both hands. Yeah, I think would be where they would go with that.
And then the defense would just show the picture of the dude holding the taser.
Yep, that's what I would do every time.
let's see here. What I was going to say. I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys. I had a question lined up, and then all of a sudden, it left me.
I don't know. I still find all these cases amazing. Like they're trying to make this crazy story up, and this is where I said like a lot of the content you do overlaps with what I was doing with critical theory. Is in order for critical theory to work, you have to scare just enough people into thinking America is so racist, and that these critical theorists, they're the people that have the answer. It's to get them over to their side, to be these radical leftists that subscribe to this idea that, you know, white privilege is America's original sin, and the system is so it is it is irreversibly white supremacist. So we have to get everybody to have this critical consciousness and agree with us, so that we can revolutionize all of society. And that's, I mean, that's exactly what they're doing with these wedge issues. In fact, it is incredibly rare that police shootings happen at all.
Yes.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
think.
the same shit I tell to my, like, I yell at my mom. We're like, man, my mom's like, I love her to death. She's 63, and she's like, man, these days you just don't know anymore, right? Like, you can't let kids go play out late at night, or else somebody might kidnap them or something. It's like, that's just not true. We have a
Yeah.
safer society in most places, and I say most places because we see what have happened to some of these Democratic ran cities and their huge crime spikes. But um, in most places, things are safer than they've ever been.
Yes. By far. And the thing was,
Yeah.
I grew up in the '90s, and I never heard these stories of, you know, kids getting abducted and kidnapped and all that. And it sounds like the '70s and '80s and '90s, it was like happening all the time compared to today.
Oh, remember the serial killer craze of the 70s and 80s,
That
right?
too.
It seemed like there were serial killers everywhere. But they say, well, your chances are three times more likely. If your chances for a white person is 0.00001 and it's for black people 0.00003, yeah, technically that's three times more likely, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get shot. The
Yeah.
chances are still extraordinarily small.
Well, and it's amazing how you can abuse statistics like that, because
Oh
then
yeah.
Yes.
like
And
I don't think I have to explain to this crowd all the factors that go into that, right? Like, well, like, how often are cops out there looking for a white person, right?
Yes.
Mhm. Well, I
Uh,
mean, and for those who
what
are
what
listening,
what areas have the highest crime where there's the most policing?
Mm-hmm. Well, then there's
yeah,
also
and by the
just
way, they did correct for that. And when they found out is that yes, blacks are three times more likely to get shot by police, but
Like to
if
like
you narrow,
situations, you're more likely to
well,
be shot if you're white.
if you disaggregate down to where you're talking about only people that have actually encountered the police, it's about even. So the fact is that they do encounter the police more often. If you are pulled over by a police officer, your chances of getting shot between being black and white is about the same. And yet they use the three times thing all the time. And as I've said, and I did a video on this, Patrick Lyoya, he gets pulled over. You don't know what his friend's been telling him. Oh man, they're going to kill you. You're going to be careful, man. You, first chance you get, you better run because the cops around here, well, they'll kill you right away. You don't know if he hasn't been feeding that to Patrick. So the fact that Patrick ran may be just as much a result of trying to get away, with not being arrested, but also some of the lies he's been fed. Remember, he's from the Congo.
yeah,
He's been here about 5 years.
but in
Go
all
ahead.
reality, Johnny, the Congo is not Beaver Cleaverville. I mean, if you came from like the Congo is a very very not nice place.
Oh yeah, I
So
know. Yeah.
I think if he somebody told, oh my god, the cops so horrible here, he's like, what, you get killed walk like the Congo's an insane asylum compared to here. So
Yep.
I don't, I mean, I get somebody may have tried to tell him that, but he knows. I mean, he's just like anybody else. I mean,
Mhm.
nobody wants to get arrested. I mean, if I did something wrong, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, you got me. I'd be upset too.
But if you come from a country where the police are pretty, let's say, vicious, and you get pulled over in the United States, and somebody tells you the police around here, they'll shoot you for nothing. I can understand where the, let's say, the fear is heightened beyond what you would normally should experience. I'm not trying to defend him,
No, I
but
understand.
I tried my best to try to understand where the guy is coming from. And maybe he did actually have a legitimate fear that the cop was going to do something terrible to him, which is, so it says something about his friends and their concern for him. Because let's face it, if you get pulled over by the police and you just don't be a jackass, you're probably going to be okay.
And
Somebody typing.
I always say, like, that's just true. That is a
Yeah.
truism. If the police want to arrest you, even if they're completely in the fucking wrong, and you just let them do it, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll say, well, what about this? And what about that? And when you look at the individual instances, it's so easy to say, hey, wait a minute. That's not an example at all. Right?
Yeah.
What about Michael Brown? Well, Michael Brown assaulted the police officer.
Yes.
I mean, they always bring up these examples, but the examples fall apart because they're not examples at all.
Well, and
But to them, they are.
There's still more police shootings that get reported that don't get reported that are they're obvious. Like, nobody in their right mind would think that the police shot them for any reason other than they were in danger for their life. Like, it's always these fringe cases, which lets you know something about what's going on. This is about pushing an agenda, not about getting justice for anybody.
Yeah. Well, like, there was the one in L.A. I think it's a couple months ago now, where some guy was just going around a department store just beating people left and right with a bike lock, just hurting everybody.
Oh,
and
I saw that.
Show up. Yeah, and they shoot, and then they shoot past the target, and part of it goes through there into the changing rooms behind it, and the way that one unfolded out, I could see that, hey, nobody got, like, there was very little outrage about that one. Nobody was screaming for that guy. I mean, it helped that he was black, the officer that did it, but that one, I'd argue, it was actually, could be argued whether or not it's questionable. But this is, and most of these are nowhere near close. And I would argue the one that happened in L.A. still is, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, but that one's a lot more, I think, realistic to argue.
Did we have the shock video clip that you could share to people in that situation?
Are you talking about the video clip of the actual incident?
Yeah. To make all this work, you have to have, like, the shock video clip, like the shock testimonies, right?
Yeah. Well,
and you go ahead.
Yeah, I think in that one, like, her daughter was in the dressing room with her, and it's the actual lady who called 911 ended up getting killed. So yeah, I think it had all of it together, but it was just, for some reason, nobody liked to argue about that one, and that's the thing I don't get. There are so many of them. Like, there's one here.
Wait, was it? Well, hold on. It wasn't obviously. If it was a white cop shooting a black woman, it wouldn't have been obvious because they would have had no idea who they shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, the one in LA
thing too that has to be part of the conversation is you have to have the clear cut white cop shoots black man.
Yes.
The one in LA was the daughter died. She was the one that was shot in the dressing room.
Oh, it was the daughter?
She was with her mother.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was the mother that was with her. I don't think that either one of them had anything to do with the actual call. They were just in there changing. And I would chalk this one up to just incompetence by the police a little bit. And by the way, good luck, America.
Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
I don't know anything about this story, but everything you're telling me, this should be a bigger story than the guy we're talking about.
Yeah.
This should be a much bigger story, is why a stray bullet killed a young person coming from cops.
It's not, it wasn't a stray bullet. It was one of the cops, he had a rifle, and the rest of them were trying to get around to do something, and the guy grabbed for the bike lock, and the cop said, like, don't, like, show me your hands. He's partially concealed, So the cop lights him up, shoots him like 2 or 3 times, and it's just the fact he's like 15, 20 feet away. It's an AR-15, blows right through him, and then blows right into the, through the drywall into the, you know, dressing room behind him. But I think
Right.
there's an argument that, everybody else, like the people there with the less than lethal, were trying to organize and get ready to go take him down. He wasn't actually in front of anybody. I think there's an argument like you're in a department store, you should assume there's probably people still hiding. I can see those arguments being
Yeah,
made, but yeah,
I feel like
it's
there's more to debate on that though
yeah, there
than this
is.
story.
If you haven't seen it, I'll try to pull it up real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. And Good Luck
I
America,
have no
by the way,
idea.
did cover this one. And Rick, what's his last name? I forget. Whatever. The guy who runs Good Luck America, he did entirely a big expose on it. And in his view, it was really more about police incompetence, that they just didn't do things right. But there was no attempt, like because of race or anything like that.
Well, and
Go
that's
ahead.
the problem. That is a bigger issue to me, is police being incompetent, than the idea that there's a bunch of racist police officers out there. Because the data just suggests that's not true. It at one point it was, but we actively have like government agencies that go around trying to pull and account for all these things.
Yeah. I mean, I watch his channel all the time, and he's pretty much anti-cop, even though he's like a 35-year veteran of the police department in Sacramento.
Well, no,
But
like
he does make some good points, though.
this is what I like. I've had to come to terms with the fact that I am actually not against police. I am just against a lot of the laws that they have to enforce. Um, like the idea of police is fine. I think I for every like real asshole cop out there, there's 9 good ones probably. But that real asshole cop certainly leaves the impression on you when you encounter them. Especially in my younger years when I was a punk rocker, had a mohawk
Yeah,
and stuff. Like
yeah,
cops did not treat you well whenever you were just walking
yeah.
around. Trust me, they thought we were up to no good. I was like, dude, we play music and shit. You guys are dicks. And now all of a
By
sudden
the
I'm going the other way and just being like, look, I understand bitching about the police, but in this situation, I understand what they did. Like it makes sense.
Yes.
Victim Matters is trying to get in, and so I just posted a link. So I was a little bit distracted there. Back to it. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Anything else on the Patrick Loyola? Oh, here he is. Hey, victims, how you doing?
I mean, sorry, I changed my name on you a little bit. A lot of people on Twitter don't read, so here we are.
Oh,
Hey, we've been talking about the Patrick Loyola shooting. Anything you'd like to add to that? I don't know how much you've been following that story.
So I've been following it, and like a lot of things, the actual facts get drowned out in the rhetoric, right? So I'll be the one. You know where I stand politically, Johnny. I do think it was excessive force, but all these people walk around saying, "Oh, he was unarmed." No, he was not unarmed. Not at the time the shooting occurred. So, there's like all the rhetoric that we ever talk about, Johnny. There's the far right, everything's perfect. There's the far left. Oh, he was an unarmed. No, it's complicated. And I don't approve of the shooting, Johnny. I think there was a better way to handle that, but he's not, he wasn't just an unarmed guy doing nothing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, as soon as Ben Crump gets involved, you know where it's going to go, right?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Well, and I would have
Yeah.
loved Well, I would have
Go
loved
ahead.
for the story to end up with the cop didn't end up shooting the guy and like found some other matter of doing it. The problem is like how much, like especially this is one thing that I've also come to the conclusion is that we give cops an impossible job in these
Sure.
situations. how much risk does the officer have to assess in that amount of time before they're allowed to shoot?
It's a hard question, right?
It
So
is a
like
hard question. I don't know. I don't think there's an answer to that question.
so I like to think of it in terms of like airline pilots, right? So they could carry parachutes and jump out at the first sign of trouble, but we think of them very badly if they did that. You know, so we expect them to assume a certain amount of risk to protect the public, even like in the case of Patrick. I cannot pronounce his last name to save my
Yeah.
life. I'm sorry. Um,
It's
Well,
okay. I can't either.
in the case
n-
of Patrick, we expect them to assume a certain amount of risk in an attempt to protect the public, even the
well,
public that they're arresting.
well, and police are trained to do that, but it's in like this very discreet, and this is what's driven into their heads. It's like you use one level of force above what your threat level is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody's pushing and shoving, like maybe you're able to like start using grappling techniques or something. If somebody's throwing fist and stuff like that, maybe you are using a taser. Like if somebody has a deadly weapon and is going after you, then you use a gun. Like maybe that hierarchy is, and I probably didn't have that correct, but it's very similar to what they're trained. Maybe the hierarchy is not exact, but you also have to train these people. Well, you have to get these people that get what 6 months to a year of training, and you have to like let them know how to handle these situations. They get that ingrained in their head. So, of course, when somebody gets a hold of a taser, which is considered a deadly weapon, it's deadly force, right? Like that is the next level of escalation on their chart in their mind. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe we should have a different strategy for training them. But that is what the cop is thinking, and I know this just based on all these trials that we've seen.
And I think you actually, I don't know if you realize it, but you actually kind of hit on one of the big problems. They get 6 months to a year of training, and then they're expected to be the ones who are moving around with deadly force to keep order in society. That's probably not enough.
Yep, it probably isn't. In fact, like I've argued for maybe we need degrees of police officers, right? Like maybe you do have a 6 month police officer course that does X, Y, and Z. Then you have a year course that does X, Y, and Z. Then you have a 2 year course that does more than that. I don't really know. I don't know the answer. Like we have a shortage of cops in a lot of places right now. So
Yeah, yeah, very much so. How much responsibility is on the citizen though to also, go along here? For example, the de-escalation. You always talk about, well, the cops are trained to de-escalate. Why shouldn't the citizen de-escalate as well?
I think that the same reason why the passengers shouldn't be expected to land the airplane. I mean, ostensibly, we have trained professionals who are supposed to deal with these things, and they should be trained to handle those things. The public doesn't have to be trained to handle such things. So that's we expect a higher standard out of people who are trained. Although I think there's a solid point here that they're not trained enough.
But do you need a lot of
I would
training as
agree with
a
that.
citizen to de-escalate though? I mean, don't be a jackass, don't run. Like when the officer tells you get back in your car, get back in your car. I mean, does it really require training?
I'll tell you what a guy. And I'm not trying to monopolize the call. If I can just have one more moment,
Sure,
I
go ahead.
I have a friend who he did 2 tours in Iraq, and then he came to be a Florida state trooper. And he told me the level of de-escalation training Florida state troopers get is abysmal compared to the de-escalation training he got in the Army. And,
that's absolutely
That doesn't
true. Like
surprise me.
I've heard that already. Like do you guys remember the Joe Rogan podcast where he interviewed that cop from Baltimore?
Sure, yeah.
Do,
Yeah, it
well,
doesn't surprise me.
anyway,
Cops
like
are not properly trained.
that cop from Baltimore, like I mean, he was an ex-military person, and he was just like, yeah, like there's a lot of cops out there that are hotheads and they don't understand how to truly de-escalate things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that that's a big problem because yes, they're the professionals; they should be, on top of it. But I also think, to an extent though, we're not expecting the passengers to land the airplane, but we also don't expect the passengers to, you know, while you're trying to land the airplane, they're starting to dick around with everything and do whatever they want to do. Um,
Sure.
and that's, but no, I trust me. I'm a defense attorney. I think the cops are way out of line most of the time. They're basically taught, hey, try to get probable cause, try to get them to talk without, like, those are the big things. Get them to talk without asserting the Miranda rights, and let us know what you can seize.
Yeah,
That's a lot of their training.
I I never like for my degree I never had to take a criminal justice course, but a friend of mine did, and it was kind of hilarious whenever he was going through it because he had an ex police officer as his professor, and they were talking about how they get all these sneaky tactics to get around the Fourth Amendment and to
Yep.
get people to do things and to get them to give permission. And they're just like, isn't it great how like we can get around all these things and arrest
Yep.
people? And I'm just like, no, it's not. Like, why are they so proud of it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've always recommended that one video, "Don't Talk to the Cops,"
I do
right?
too.
But
Uh-huh.
I recommend
half
it.
of half of that video was a police officer telling everybody how he gets information from people and the tricks he uses. And I think everybody should watch that. I think it should be mandatory watching in high school. You know,
Absolutely.
Oh, I
it's
think so.
like, you know, and by the way, we have Penal News says maybe we don't need cops. Maybe the increase in law enforcement caused a lot of these problems. Well, we do need cops. I mean, any kind of community that grows is going to want to pool its resources together to pay people to keep from breaking laws. I mean, that's
Look,
just natural,
look.
right?
So Pinoy News. I used to be the co-host on his channel with him. Man, he's my
Oh,
boy.
okay.
So
Tell
what's
us.
up, Pinoy? Uh, he's got some weird ideas on the best way to manage those communities. And he's like, yeah, let's just let the mafia do the job. And he makes a convincing argument, but I'm not with him on it necessarily.
Yeah. Is Pinoid for paranoid?
Yep.
Okay. But here's, by the way, there's been a lot of talk about how police departments are really a descendant of the slave patrols. It's bullshit. It's Carol Anderson going around telling people this stuff, and she's got a lot of people believing this. It is simply not true. Our police departments are not descendants of slave patrols. They're descendants of old world um, police departments that sprang out because naturally, anytime you have a community, they're going to want to pool their resources to have somebody else go after criminals. You know,
Well,
the idea
there,
behind that, Muskogee Police Department is somehow descendant from some slave patrol in South Carolina is absolutely ridiculous, but whatever.
so
But
it's actually even slightly older than that, Johnny. The purpose of police departments is to stop blood feuds.
Just stop one. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Blood feuds.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Because,
Yeah.
okay, you got in a fight with my brother and you killed him in a bar fight. So I'm going to come kill you. And then your brother's going to feel a certain way about that. And he's going to come kill me. Well, I've got a brother too, you know, and this goes on and on for years. Famously, everyone's heard of the Hatfields and McCoys, um,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. The whole idea of police and the justice system in general is to stop that by creating a neutral arbiter who will say, this is what happened.
Right. And by the way, the Hatfield McCoys was the first um, event that brought in or let's say modern extradition law, because the McCoys were from West Virginia and the Hatfields were from Kentucky, or vice versa. I forget. And so they were trying to hold a court on one of those families in the other state. And so if you want to know where our extradition laws come from, it's that feud. And it took out about 12 or 15 people, and it was pretty
Yes.
vicious.
It was bad.
of course,
Mhm.
it's going to take some Appalachian white trash mofo's to cause that.
By the way,
I
how
actually only
about
made fun of that because Pinoy's an Appalachian.
I'm absolutely on the Hatfield side, man. Those McCoys were a bunch of assholes. And I'll fight you over it. I'll fight you over it. Let's see here. But go ahead, guys. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to fed up Southern Girl, and we already covered this topic, but maybe we should just for the audience, like just address it again. I'm here because Dorito Bandits is the funniest descriptor I've heard in a while.
Yeah, I kind of want to.
We haven't talked about it yet much though.
We talked about it just a little bit, and then we moved on to something that's kind of more interesting but less funny.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to this? Because I have a video we can show of what happened.
Sure, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Hang on a second, guys. Again, I'm a little bit of a newbie at this kind of thing. Share screen. I'm getting better. And let's see here. I think this is it. All right. I think this is it. Oh, wait. I don't know if I have clicked on the little button that I'm supposed to click on to share the audio. And that's really important here. The audio is really important. Okay, I'm going to do this again. Share screen. Okay. Oh, I already had it. Okay, hang on. Okay, does everybody see the Syracuse.com window now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play this, and I hope the audio comes through, but I think it will.
Oh, yeah, because I'm not going to find him there.
Okay, can you hear the audio?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a little faint, but
Okay.
I can hear it.
Today we're here
That better?
Yep.
to
Okay.
discuss
Yeah,
a
it's
large
okay.
call that the Syracuse Police Department was called to involving several juveniles on the city's north side.
Where are you going? Didn't we just go through this? Didn't we just go through this?
Make a notice of the fact that he's saying, didn't we just go through this? We'll talk about that later.
You were crying in the backseat of my car? Remember that? Get off your bike. Get off your bike. Hey. Get off your bike. Get off. Come on. Come on. Hey, stop. Get over here.
Also make note of the fact that that one friend of his tried to pull him away from the police officer.
Stop. If you don't even keep doing that. That's what I'm doing. I don't know what you want. I don't know. You don't know. So what's going on here?
This video stops and we'll transition over to Officer Bohuniak's body-worn camera. The next clip starts where Officer Bohuniak is placing the juvenile in the rear of the police vehicle so he can be taken home. In this video and in the next video, you'll see that the juvenile was not placed into handcuffs.
We're bringing you home to your life. Stop. Let go. Stop, dude. Stop. Stop. Stop.
I'm not gonna lie, I do feel bad for the kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not going to lie, I don't. And I'll tell you why here in a moment.
What? Two bags of chips.
He's on the inside of
Oh,
the
they
of the
even
vehicle,
grabbed-
so
they
you'll
even-
hear some
they even-
interaction between the officer and
They
the
even grabbed
juvenile.
He brought his
They
bike
even
back.
grabbed
I'm
his
sorry.
bike.
Go ahead.
They even
I'm sorry,
grabbed
go
his
ahead.
bike.
Start
I thought
over.
that was awesome.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, you're going home. Well, stop stealing.
There's no doubt that there is trauma there.
I disagree, but okay.
And that,
Well,
that
Trump is gonna be his
experience
mom whooping the
will
shit out of him.
influence how
Wow.
that child views law enforcement. This is a snapshot of what is happening all over this city and all over this country. Our kids are struggling, and we're all doing our best to try to help, but we need to do more.
I've been here and dropped him off with your wife before, and it doesn't seem like she really cares.
Gee, that's a real shock.
So
The officers that responded to this 911 complaint of a larceny in progress located the child who was stealing, didn't handcuff him, didn't arrest him, didn't take him to
I
jail.
love this guy's voice.
We don't do that. What they did do is call him by name and take him home to his father, then stand in the street and have a long discussion with him. Folks, this is community policing 101.
can I stop and say hi and have a conversation next time, and we'll be friends? I'm not going to be chasing you down for stealing stupid things, right?
This was a painful situation for everybody involved. I know we can do better, and I believe we will do better.
No, you could do better. You guys didn't take him to jail. I don't know how much better it gets.
All
I mean, really, I don't know how much more they could have done.
right, Johnny, before you rebut me, like why I say I kind of feel bad for the kid. The reason I feel bad for the kid is like I am sure that he did not understand the gravitas of the consequences that he could be suffering. And I'm also not confident that at home he was ever taught about the gravitas of the consequences he could be suffering for doing what he did. So, but that's about it. Like, I think he was just distraught, had no idea that this was going to lead to the situation he got in. Anyway, I'll flip it back to you.
Well, anybody else?
Honestly,
So
I
I'll
don't know.
wait.
Probably fair.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, potential criminal. You go.
Sorry. No, victim. All I was just gonna say is, I think that's probably fair. He just doesn't understand, but I think he learned in a very, for lack of a better term, cost-effective way. He didn't have to go to jail, and wasn't cuffed. I mean, that's pretty good overall, I would argue.
You're breaking up just a little bit. Did you change any settings on your microphone or anything?
No, if I move
Or
closer,
it could be on my
is
end.
that better?
No, I heard the same.
Okay. How about you, victims? I mean, we were able to hear you. It was just a little bit cutting in and out.
I honestly don't think it's that bad. So I'll share a little personal story if you don't mind, because I was a teenager who was a moron, and I admit
We all
that.
were, just
Um,
different ways.
I one time took my mother's car without permission, and after a couple of hours not coming back, she called the police, and they found me, and they said, "Give me the keys." And one of the cops in question drove my mom's car home, and the other one drove me home with me in the back of the car, and we had a conversation. It wasn't the greatest night of my life, you know.
Mhm.
I was 16 and I was a moron. That's the way it goes. That's
Okay.
essentially what happened here, but with Doritos. So I'm struggling a little bit on what they did that was so bad. Yes, I understand the kid was upset, and there's reasons for that, and we need to be sensitive to that. But I'm struggling to see what was so horrible about this.
Well, here's my take on it. I don't feel sorry for the kid at all. That was fake. That screaming and hollering, I've raised enough kids to know, to recognize that's a show. The reason why I say that is because if you're really distraught and you're really crying, there's going to be the moments where you can't catch your breath. It never happened here. Everything was exhale. In my opinion, he was putting on a nice, good show for the people that were surrounding him. And this is what worries me about this situation is he's gotten good at this. By the way, you also notice the police officer said, "We're going to do this again? I've already had you in the back of the car before." He's been busted for this before. And so, and I didn't have it here, but there is a clip where they're lifting him up a little bit to put him in the back of the car. Kid's not going willingly. So the police officers have told him, "You need to get back into the back of the squad car." And this kid's saying no. Boy, if I'm that age, I would never tell a cop no. I mean, okay, because we had this genuine fear of the police. There were authority figures. This kid does not think like that one iota. That's my take. Go ahead.
People always saying, "LOL, haha, the cops shouldn't be dealing with kids." Like, there's an extent where they shouldn't be, right? But if their goal is a kid fucking does something that is overtly criminal, 8 years old, right? Like super young. What do? You fucking bring them to your parents. You talk to the parent. You let the parent deal with it. I think that's what the cop did. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right.
I think that's the right answer. I think the cops did what they should have done, and the kid was freaking out and struggling, which sucked for the cops to deal with, right? Like, I've dealt with whiny fucking kids. Like, I just had my nephews over here. Like, trust me. One of them one time found it was a display katana and pulled it out on me when he was like 6 years old. Right? So, like, I've seen kids get out of control.
Yeah, the kid that I worry about more than him was the other one. You try to pull your friend away from the police, dude, you've got issues. That's the one I think is going to be real trouble down the road. Actually, I think that unless people straighten them out, both of those kids are going down the wrong road. But there's one thing about crying because you really feared you gotten in trouble. There's another one where you're crying to let everybody know, look how bad they're treating me. And that's what that kid was doing, in my opinion.
There may also be a factor of who are the parents here. And I want to say that because, when I had my little fun joyride incident, they're like, "We're going to take you home to your parents' house." I was like, I'm thinking to myself, can't I just go to jail? I think I'd rather go to jail.
Oh, yeah. Well, so the cop said, well, the mother doesn't seem to be interested. Oh, well, she's been sick. Really? Well, that had to be pretty sick to not care if your kid's been brought home in a cop car. So, yeah, there's some issues there. Now, I've been fighting with people over this on the internet and they're saying that, well, the police manhandled him. If the police say, we're going to take you home to your parents, and the kid says, no, you've got to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do?
No.
And I ask people this all the time. What would you have done if you were the police officer? And I always get back, well, I would have been more understanding. I don't give a damn. What were you going to do? I want to know what actions you're going to take. Well, I would de-escalate. No. Tell me what your actions you're going to take. Don't give me that de-escalation bullshit. Right? Yeah. And they can never tell you. Go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, they didn't take him anywhere. They didn't give him a summons. There's no court case against him.
Okay, literally, you're breaking up pretty good now.
Okay. Yeah, I should be
You sound really fast.
No, you're not breaking up. You've been chipmunked. It's weird.
Oh.
What's that?
Like, I mean, he sounds like the Alvin and the Chipmunks.
How about I leave and come back in real quick?
Okay. That'd be good.
Try that.
I always do that to my host when I think they're going to disagree with me. I put on this little thing. I say, I think you better go back and come back in.
Well,
go ahead.
I know I'm going back to my friend Tom P, but he's talking about the community should be dealing with these issues, not the cops. In a weird way, I kind of agree, but it's something that I don't think we can solve with their current structure. Like, I don't think we have community cohesion. I don't think we have the ability to do that these days, as you might have it. Like, you look back, you maybe like 100 years ago, right? If people were acting up in your community would ostracize you.
Mhm.
We just don't have that anymore. Like, I don't even talk to my neighbors. I don't know who the fuck they are.
Yeah, I mean that community thing going. And by the way, my response to that would be, if I'm a parent, okay, the cop, he can do what he needs to do. I need to do what I need to do. Community can stay the hell out of it. It's not your damn problem. This is between me and my kid, and the law enforcement and my kid and me. But the
Well,
community has no authority in this matter, none whatsoever.
I can
That's how
also
I feel.
turn that around a little bit and say, like, I think it would do wonders for especially these inner city communities that are ridden with crime to, like, have zones blocked off where, like, there's a police officer that is a representative of that area that goes and talks to the people and listens to what they have to say. I think it would go light years, right? Way better than officer friendly at the elementary school. Like, you give this dude
Well,
the card, like you're able to call this guy directly, and he's supposed to
how
be an
long
advocate
before
for your
the
community.
how long before the community would be going to the city council and saying, we got to get rid of this guy because he's racist. He's he's like, making kids pay for their stuff and not allowing them to steal and things like that. I mean, that's an
True.
exaggeration, but how long before the community starts to understand, hey, we can roll this guy?
Well, one of the issues with that is I think normal people in the community aren't like that. Like,
I agree.
this is one of the things, like, the vocal activists, they show up, right? They're the ones that are going to be at that city council meeting. But, like, most of the people, like, what community defunding the police is super unpopular with? Black communities. And potentially criminal. You're muted. I don't know if you
Yeah,
mean to be.
yeah, I was. Do I sound better now?
Yeah, you
Yeah, oh
sound
yeah,
like a normal
definitely.
human being again.
Okay, good. Good.
I like the Alvin sound a little bit
Yeah.
there, but
But yeah, I mean, I was just trying to say this was a good resolution. I mean, I'm involved in the justice system. If I don't have to do anything, that's always a good day. This kid didn't get a record. He didn't get charged. He didn't go to jail. He didn't get cuffed. I mean, what more do you want? Like, literally every time somebody's getting arrested, they always say, why don't you just let him go? It's like, they pretty much did let him go. I mean,
And
that's a win.
and I agree. And I mean, I'm going to be a parent pretty soon, just so you all know.
congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you.
congratulations.
And I'm thinking to myself, if my kid did something that stupid, right, that they stole Doritos or, well, anything really, and the police brought him home and said, you owe the shopkeeper, $5.60, and here's the kid. Can we have your assurances this won't happen again? I'll be like, oh, you can bet that, you know.
Yeah, he'll have a pain reflex the next time he thinks about doing this. But
And that would be my reaction as a parent, right? Because I don't want my kid to grow up stealing stuff and thinking that's okay. I mean, they got brought home by the cops today, but they'll be in the tank tomorrow,
Yep.
And Dominic Black says, "Hey, Johnny."
yeah, I'm just responding to him.
Oh, is he on here?
Hey, if Dom wants to join us, hey
Cool.
Dom, let me know. Send a private message to me.
Wait, is that the Dominic Black?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's the Dominic Black.
Nice.
Hopefully he can join us, but he likes to lay low, which is a smart thing, right?
This stream's like, well, it's
Well,
kind of been
he's
low.
among
We
friends.
got up to 10. We're up down to 4.
He's among
and
friends
that's-
here. Yeah. Here's my view of it. When I was raising my kids, you didn't put packs of sugar in your purse. And I had this long argument with my wife. And, we would go to a restaurant, like a convenience store, and then she'd get like 3 or 4 of those little packets of sugar. put them in her purse. I say, you put those back, because I have my kids there. I do not want them thinking that you can take that which does not belong to you. Now, I understand that the sugars are given away as part of this is part of the deal you get with your meal, but you go beyond the normal when you're trying to teach your kids. And so I put a lot of emphasis on honesty and, most importantly, respecting people's property. Never had this trouble with my kids. So if you're going to be a parent pretty soon, that's what I would do. Set the example that not only are you against stealing, you're against stealing to a pretty heavy extreme, but that's how you set the message. Obviously, this kid involved hadn't learned that. And let's see what he says here.
Well, we're talking about all sorts of shit.
Yeah, we're talking. Hey, I'll tell you what, Dom.
We went to the Doritos Bandit just because somebody in chat was like, we love the fact that you put Doritos Bandit in the title.
Right. So, hey, Dom, if you want to join on, you can talk about whatever you like. How's that?
Yeah,
What's
we're
up,
kind of
man?
out of topics. I was actually about to share with you like the Elon Musk meme about what happened with left and right and the reaction, because I think
Do
that's
it.
a pretty funny story.
You can share, okay, can you?
Yeah, I'm trying to actually find the fucking picture.
Oh, yeah. I also have that LAPD thing we were talking about earlier. Excel that I don't think you saw.
Oh yeah, I want to see what
Yeah.
happened with that.
Sure. Yeah, it's from another news person covering it, but it at least shows it enough to see what's going on. Yeah, it's a little loud, so you might need to turn things down. I'll turn it down a little bit. So this
by
is
the way,
guy who
Dom,
actually does it.
sorry. Hey, Dom, if you want to join in, I sent you a link in your private. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe he's joined in. Hang on. Who is that? I can't see because it doesn't scroll down all the way. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, hang on.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was the stream. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the department store
This is
deal.
yeah, it's the one in the department store. So, see, there's like blood everywhere.
Hey, she's bleeding! She's bleeding!
And that's
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
yeah. And that's when the guy reaches down, he grabs that or reaches down for something, and that's when they shoot him. So, yeah, I mean, I'd argue that one's got a lot more that can be talked about or debated than the one in Grand Rapids.
100% agree, especially after I saw the color of the victim.
Well,
Unfortunately, that answers part of the reason why it wasn't covered, and it's sad. But are you going to disagree with me?
No. But I'm just saying the officer was also, he is black too.
Great.
That's part of the reason
That
why
makes
he
it
did
even
it.
harder.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at it and thought the officer was a bit, let's say, overzealous.
I think he was a little fast on that too.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, if you watched him before this all event occurred, he's pushing people out of the way. It doesn't seem like he can wait to get involved in the action.
To the front. Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah. I mean, does anybody know what actually happened as a result of this? I mean, anybody charged?
I think he got disciplined. I don't think he got charged.
Okay, we have here. Can I get a Biden 2024? Imagine how bad things would have been if Satan. Okay, yeah, that's enough of that. I mean, look, I'm not a Trump fan at all. I think he's an asshole. I'm not a Biden fan at all. I think he's a jackass. I don't want this to turn into like name calling, stuff like that. Whatever, If you want to talk about Trump, you want to talk about Biden, It's got to be rational, logical, reasonable. Fair enough.
Fair to me.
Yes.
Yeah, the officer, he opened fire. Obviously, there were people in the dressing room behind that wall. I don't think he could have known that.
Yeah, but I think you should, like, you're in a department store. Like, you should assume there's, like, not everybody's out. I just think that's kind of where, like, victim, you said, like, your job, it might get dangerous. That's why you've got a bulletproof vest and, we pay for your health insurance. Sometimes it's dangerous. This guy was beating people with a bike lock. They knew that, and yeah, like, so what? He might have a gun. Like, well, that's why you have your own big shiny gun too. But yeah, I don't like the fact he just shot, and other people got killed for it, and they did literally nothing except trying to hide. It's one thing if they had, I don't know if you guys ever seen those video games where, like, you're trying to shoot the bad guys and, like, the person jumps up on the screen like, "Don't shoot me." Yeah, if you do that, okay, I understand. Don't jump in front of the guy shooting. But this one, the cop, comes right up to the front and I think was, very, very, very eager. I think too eager to do what he was trying to do.
Did you see the part where the lady gets on the escalator and down at the bottom, this dude is beating the living shit out of some lady and she just rides it right down to him? I'm like, what in the hell? There seems to be a lack of awareness among people.
You have to remember, you're going down the escalator and some guy is beating the brakes off a lady with a bike lock. For most people, you're probably like, oh my God, is this really happening? So I think that was more of what was going on there for somebody. Just that the training wheels fall off their world in that moment, and that's going on. Like, you've got to catch up, and it takes a long time to catch up. And in a situation like that where the guy's just beating people, you generally don't have enough time. So then she gets picked off, and then the next person, then the next person. I mean, that's usually been my experience when you see people on the witness stand. They're like, well, you just stood there and, stand there and watch a guy right next to him get blown away. And they're like, I couldn't believe it was happening.
It all happened so fast.
Yeah, that too.
Of course, with the escalator.
Yes.
We know how long it took.
Yes, it's the slow impending doom.
Well, and I mean, you're right. A lot of people just freeze, and that's not everybody. People have different reactions. Some people freeze. Some people, the world slows down for them. It just varies, and so just because they freeze doesn't mean the escalator stops.
I know. You freeze and the escalator just carries you right down to it.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, this is bad. The escalator just goes right back.
Yeah, there was a lot of people who just seemed to want to get out of the way. There was a lady up in the that floor after they had evacuated everybody, right? There's a shooting going on. There's all kinds of pandemonium. She's still up there shopping. Okay, we have a share here, it looks like. Don't know what this is. Somebody narrate?
Yeah, so this is this is me. So Elon Musk shared this, and I feel like it's incredibly accurate as to what has been going on lately. Where he looks at 2008, right? You've got your conservatives over here. You've got these center left people. And I was a like in 2008, I was a Ron Paul supporter. Like, me and liberals, like, we agreed on a lot of the big issues. Like, we were super fucking anti-war. We thought that corporate corruption was at a max, and they even started buying into the whole, like, screw the Federal Reserve thing. And then, like, this is, once again, this is Elon Musk right here. And his fellow liberal, just kind of sprinting to the left starting in about 2012. And then in 2021, all of a sudden, Elon Musk, he hasn't changed any of his positions. And he's looking at woke progressives and just yelling at everybody to the right of him, bigot.
The dude is a troll, by the way, man. He's good.
Well, he is, but this is actually super accurate, and this is
Mhm.
honestly accurate. And the responses from the left has been absolutely fucking bonkers on this. They've tried to redo this, and they like one of them will be like, "Oh, the right has just gone further right," and then they'll show like January 6th, or they'll show tiki torches or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm like, in my time, like it has not been that way. Like like once again, my political awakening was around 2008, where I was like, you know what, fuck Barack Obama, I'm voting for Ron Paul. And all I've seen is like your mainstream right figures, like they've gone from neocon to like more conservatarian. That's what I call them, like the mix between conservative and libertarian. And I think they've moved to the left on a lot of issues, to be honest. Like,
They have.
as soon as the Supreme Court ruled on gay marriage, nobody cared anymore. And it, like, Donald Trump held out the LBGTQ for Trump flag, right? I'm trying to think of other like free, like the total laissez-faire economics. Trump was really big on putting tariffs on foreign imports, which has always been a left-wing position. All of a sudden, the right has adopted that position, and the left has taken the opposite position, which is weird. I'm just trying to think, like in every way possible. Like I don't think you can make an argument for the right has gone further right. I just don't think you can. In fact, I challenge anybody here, especially like Victims Matter. You consider yourself the lefty. You probably also relate to this meme a lot. But what has the right gone more right on since 2008?
So I do relate to this meme a fair amount. Not maybe as much as you do, but one of the things that concerns me is the authoritarian leading that we've seen, where elections are something to be circumvented, and things of that nature that are very, very concerning. So I have
See,
concerns in
I
both
don't.
directions.
We'll say like I don't think like the mainstream rate 100% is. Actually, I know there's a French right that hates elections. I get it. In fact, I'm might be part of that fringe about elections, and I'll explain later. But um, there were some like questions people had, like, and they wanted to see them adjudicated in court. And the lie we hear on TV is that like they looked at the evidence and the judges said there was nothing there. That is mostly not true. I'm sorry, but most of the time they use some sort of um like procedural doctrine, like lack of standing or moot
Yes,
point,
which is a
in
bullshit
order to dismiss it.
concept.
Right? Like they
Sorry.
didn't actually look into it. And so people were angry that they wouldn't actually look into it because things certainly looked weird. It was the weirdest election ever because of COVID. Right? And
Well,
then
it was weird because it also defied every statistical gauge we generally rely upon. So all the models, all the things you would normally look at, if you were just to give somebody like X, Y, and Z counties were won by one candidate over the other, or how they won in certain percentages. If you were to look at that data blindly, you'd say, okay, well, it's clear that guy won. And yeah, just like you said, there was some COVID was weird, but so much of it was weird. And just to honestly say, yeah, that does seem weird that he defied every statistical measure. I mean, I don't think that's wrong to acknowledge. Yeah, that did seem weird. At least to me.
Yep, I completely. I mean, I agree. Like, I think there are enough questions to be asked. It's kind of hilarious because they're like, some people say that Joe Biden was the most popular president ever based on vote counts, which I know vote counts go up year over year based on voter participation. But you know who the second most vote getter for president ever was?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Yeah,
You've got to understand we're also in the middle of a political realignment, which causes all sorts of weird things to happen.
Sure.
Yeah, these I don't think any political compass graph actually works, but the one-dimensional left-right is inaccurate, right? I actually think the arguments right now, like the biggest fight we have to fight is liberal versus anti-liberal. And the new far left, these woke progressives, they are anti-liberals in every way that like some sort of right-wing monarchist or white nationalist would be. They are not liberals.
The funny thing, since we were talking just a little bit about Musk, since he shared this meme, right? Um, from a left perspective, right? I think the workers should own the means of production. That's probably not super friendly here, but I believe strongly in unions and employee ownership of the corporations and things of that. When I
Where's
look
this
at
delete button here? Where's the
You're
delete button?
you're one of those vulgar communists.
um, but when I look at it and people are like, "Oh, Elon Musk is buying Twitter. This is the worst thing since I don't know the the raise of the Iron Curtain or something," and I go, "Yeah, a billionaire bought a social media company from
Yeah,
a bunch of
we
other billionaires. The sky is
we
falling.
we actually have a great comparison to Elon Musk buying of Twitter. We have a great one. Jeff Bezos buying of the Washington Post.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Isn't it terrible for billionaires to own the media organizations? Imagine if someone held that view consistently.
Yeah, and
Well,
if you go back to even early newspapers, who were they owned by? The richest people in the country, right?
Sure,
William Randolph Hearst.
you provide the pictures, I'll provide the war.
That's right.
oh,
Yep.
uh,
And by the way, we have Dominic saying, speaking of Biden, opinions on these gas prices. Well, Dominic, you should tell us because you've talked to Kyle. What about the tears streaming down and stuff as he's holding the gas pump? That happened to me. You can't believe it. Here in Oklahoma, I paid $3.60 a gallon the other day. Oh my God. Something's got to be done.
stupid pain.
I don't think anyone wants to hear me talk about gas prices.
Oh, we do. We do.
So I bought a Tesla in 2018 before the buyout of Twitter, and I have solar on my house. So all I'm feeling in is like food and the other commodities, right? Everything else I'm driving on sunlight.
Yeah, I have a Ford F-150. Sort of the the antithesis of the Tesla. But, by the way, I'm hearing some music. Somebody want to? There we go. All right.
Yeah, don't need to make Mama Susan mad.
Yeah, the political divide. For the first time, people are going online and saying, "I break off my dates if I find out the person voted for the other person."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen that before.
Oh, it's
That has been taught. I just want to say that has been taught and imposed on people.
It's
oh, yeah.
crazy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Before I met my girlfriend, like you go on Tinder or anything, if you like Trump, swipe right or swipe left, and they tell you keep moving, kick rocks. Which is interesting because you generally don't see it the other way. Like, I never saw any women saying like, oh, if you like Biden, keep moving. But yes, it is getting very political and very polarized. Yeah, at an astounding rate.
Are you all
Dude.
familiar with? Oh, sorry, Excel. You go ahead.
Right, it's just a funny story, not important at all. So, like, me and my friend goes by the alias Trippy Poop. We would get on the Tinder web app and we would look for those people and we would intentionally post fake pictures of ourselves and start talking to them. We weren't catfishing them, right? Like we were intentionally trying to get a reaction, but like all the people like green-haired leftists that were like swipe right if you like Trump, and then we'd start talking about MAGA, make America great again, and they couldn't just block you. They always had to respond, and it was hilarious.
So are you all familiar with the concept known as pillarization?
No.
You say
Okay.
polar or pillar?
Pillarization.
Okay.
Basically, when a society starts to reorder itself according to political lines, okay, and I'm just making some stuff up, but this could totally happen tomorrow, right? And I'm a liberal, so I shop at Publix, and you're a conservative, so you shop at Walmart, right? Just as an example. And I have the liberal bank that I go to, and you have the conservative bank that you go to. And my family, or my family is not all liberals, but just follow me for a moment. My family, all liberals, marry into other liberals, right? And your family, all conservatives, marry into other conservatives. It creates essentially parallel societies occupying the same space, which is a precursor to civil war. Because one of the things that keeps us from going into civil war is, yeah, my cousin is a Trump supporter. He literally is really big on Trump supporter. And okay, he's kind of a weirdo, but he is my cousin, So, and I don't want to go into a war against the conservatives because, I got some people on that side. And you're the same with liberals, right? So this pillarization, when this happens, like what you're describing in the dating world and in the business world and all that, it breaks down those barriers that keeps it from devolving into violence.
Yeah, there's no buy-in anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who do you have your most hatred for? It's not from foreign invasions, it's your own countrymen. That's the reason why civil wars are so violent. It's because there's some sense of betrayal, right? I mean, you kind of understand an invading army. Okay, yeah, I want to kill him because he's invading my country. But if you capture him, you still look upon him as he's a soldier who was kind of brought into this thing. Okay, there's I wouldn't say a professionalism, but sort of a respect in a certain way, but not when it comes to civil wars.
No.
In a civil war, the ones you capture are the betrayers. In any kind of, let's say, violence you can exude on that person is not enough. And the Spanish Civil War is a perfectly good example. If you read it, you find out that people are just absolutely vicious when it comes to their own countrymen.
Yep.
And I'm seeing it here. The hatred that people have for the opposing side is real palatable. So this whole thing about I don't want to date somebody from the other side. I remember reading this book on the Spanish Civil War where there's this beautiful girl that was getting off a bus. And as she walked off the bus, a bunch of men scowled at her. And the person writing the comment said, when even beauty doesn't cut through the hatred, you're in big trouble. Right? And I think that's what we're seeing. The intense hatred that we have for somebody who has an opposing viewpoint is something I don't think we've seen here in this country, maybe ever. Can you think of a time where you've had this?
Not in my lifetime.
Yeah, I'm not.
Not in my lifetime.
Yeah, definitely not in my lifetime.
And I thought things were
Once again, like,
in college.
oh, go ahead.
Like I was in college in the early 2000s, and I don't remember it being this out of control. So,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Disagree.
Yeah, I mean, and it's indoctrination is very severe because I work with colleges and it's starting to creep into the classrooms. I mean, it's always been there, right? But I don't think we've had the situation. I think Excel, I think you need to mute your mic a moment. Is it you? Thank you. I don't think we've seen it like this to where I have a captive audience of students, maybe a couple hundred in my class. I must teach them the other side is evil. We've always been able to kind of go along. Okay, yeah, there's a whole bunch of these hicks in my class, and they probably voted for Trump, whatever. That's not good enough anymore. You must somehow correct them or punish them in some way. And it's gotten into our K-12 system. And you wonder why people are homeschooling their kids now.
Have you all ever heard of a man named Daryl Davis?
I certainly have. That's the black KKK guy, right?
Yep.
Yep. He
does God's work.
He absolutely does.
Wait a minute. Can you float this by me one more time? He's who?
Okay. So let me explain. Daryl Davis, memory serves, he was a magician. Not magician, musician.
He was a hell of a magician.
A musician. A
musician. Okay, I'm sorry.
My wife gave me a very tall rum and coke, so I apologize. And he's basically made it his mission in life to convert people out of the Ku Klux Klan.
Okay, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And he does this by talking to them like they're, human beings, and, and working with them on why they feel the way they do, and then helping them to come to the conclusion that this belief is leading them to an unreasonable conclusion, right? And he's got something like 200 Klan robes from people who have quit the Klan because of his efforts.
Yeah, when they finally leave, he asked them to give them their robes, and he's got a whole stack of them that he's proudly displays.
Yeah, I just typed in our little chat, but he was a keynote speaker at one of Tim Pool's. He was trying to hold like a free speech event, and Antifa protested it, calling it a white supremacist event.
But that's another thing. The whole cancellation of free speech on college campuses is fairly new. I don't think I've ever heard that happening. Well, Evergreen, okay, but that goes back maybe 15 years. But now it's mainstream. For example, I thought about at one time going to a college and doing a speech, a debate or something like that on the Kyle Rittenhouse deal. And I thought about it, I said, oh, hell no. Because they would never let me say a word. I would get up there, they would shout and holler and scream, and then the police would come and say, Johnny Walker Dredd, maybe it'd be better if you just go ahead and leave because we're trying to de-escalate the situation. What's the point? So,
right. You know what, Johnny? I say that if you ever get that opportunity again, you take it and you make sure somebody's filming it. Because you're a completely reasonable person. And if you can share that experience on the internet, well, not only would it blow up your internet fame, but it would expose what's going on these campuses. Like, that's why Ben Shapiro still does college tours, even though he has been in situations where he had to be personally escorted out by his security.
Well, I mean, and I'm not scared of them punks at all. I mean, I know fully well they ain't going to do shit. However, to travel 150 miles to be told, well, you better leave. I'm not certain it's worth my time. And I get Ben Shapiro because he gets a lot of mileage out of that, discourse. So they say the conflict deal. I'm not sure it's my thing.
I would just get some guarantees out of those college groups. When I was in college, I joined the student union board, and I was on the concert committee and the comedy committee. And it was only it ended up being the same fucking committee. It was only 5 people, and we had a $30,000 budget, and you gave that to a bunch of kids. So that's probably the same thing that is happening whenever they're inviting you to talk. So just make your terms. Like, the money's already spent. It's going to be spent no matter what. So, I would actually take the opportunity, man. That's my advice.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll do that then.
Just like I said, set your terms. Make sure that, I don't want to say like do it to make a profit. Just make sure that you're not going to lose money on the whole ordeal, no
Well,
matter
yeah, I
what
get that.
happens.
Make sure they give you a good green room.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to do it, but I kind of envision in my head kind of how things would go. Or it'd be the opposite. Nobody would show up, nobody would care. That could happen too.
Both can happen, but just go up and
Mhm.
say your thing and get it videotaped and put it up on the internet.
Yep.
Like I said, just make sure that you have somebody, like if it's from the college that's advocating for you, that they're going to videotape it and put it up and that you can share it on your channel.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll do it then.
Did I actually like change your attitude towards that whole idea?
I mean, it's amazing.
Maybe a little
but
bit.
we're online, and you have made a statement that might have had an impact on somebody else's decision making.
Yes,
Hey,
right.
you know what?
Weird.
Discourse.
Hey,
Crazy.
about 3 years ago, I changed somebody's opinion. You know, I mean,
What?
oh, by the way, think about it.
Opinions can change. What are you talking about, you fascist?
Do you guys
Fucking
remember
Nazi.
Paul Katz? You guys remember Paul Katz?
I do.
He was a vicious anti-Kyle Rittenhouse dude, and then he got a hold of the evidence, and I'll be damned, he gets on there and says, "I was wrong. Kyle was innocent," and it was so mind-blowing to have somebody change their mind that nobody would believe him. And we were all
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is bullshit. Nobody changes their mind." And actually, it took a lot of time and effort by him to convince us that he was being on the up. I mean, he was real. And now he's one of Kyle Rittenhouse's biggest defenders.
Well, and there's a certain amount of evidence that has to be thrown in your face before you're like, am I really going to die on this hill? Like, even say he's one of the ideologues, which I think is most of the people that were against Kyle, right? They're ideologues that have an agenda. They didn't actually give a shit about what actually happened, right? They just wanted the narrative to be spun the way they wanted it to be spun. But there's certain people that are just like, you know what? This is not the time. This is not the case, and they're going to go full stop. Unlike the Young Turks, who to the very end just lied about the case.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time when you have the evidence in front of them and they can no longer deny it, you just get blocked.
Yep.
I mean, that's what they do. And that's a sure sign that you've won this one. But you haven't won anything because they've blocked you. They're going to go off and do their thing. What have you gained? You know?
You're making me reconsider my entire life, Johnny.
I know. Easier to fool someone than to convince them they have been fooled.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
I step back a lot of the times and try to make sure that, like, am I really just going against the mainstream because I'm going against the mainstream, or am I being fooled by somebody else? And I think that there have been times where I'm just like, I've reconsidered, but I think for the most part, the mainstream narrative, like, I can almost guarantee they're lying, and I can listen to it. I can see the words. We were talking earlier. If I hear the words misinformation and disinformation, it is never ever followed with any proof that it was misinformation or disinformation. It is just dismissed without evidence. And I still think I'm on the right side of things as far as understanding it, not the right side of things as far as my opinions on what you should do.
I've had that situation myself before. Yeah, am I being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian, or, you know, like, do I really have a reason here to not buy into it? And, you know, I just, you know, there's so many things I believed when I was in college or as a younger person. It's like, yeah, that was really bad. I should really be careful about what I start following. Oh,
Yeah.
So hesitantly.
When I was 20, I thought socialism was a good thing. Victims Matter still likes it, so.
I was never a socialist. Never bought into that at all.
Well, so here's one thing that I realize. I do not have an argument against anybody. Well, I do have an argument against them, but I don't fault them for it. If their idea of socialism is a market economy with a very expansive social safety net, right? Like Denmark or Sweden or Finland. If you're going to call that socialist, they're not really socialist, in my opinion. But if you're going to say there's an argument for take some of the excesses of your capitalism and put that into certain programs, I'm okay with that. I am not okay with what Victims Matter says, where you say, well, just let the workers own the means of production, because that is going to fail.
So
All right, Victims, your turn.
All right, so I'm a big fan of setting up systems where workers are incentivized to own the means of production. For instance, one of them that's in the United States right now that I think we should incentivize more is the employee stock purchase plan. If you're not familiar with that, this is a method by which employees, especially low-level employees, can buy into the company equity with certain advantages for both them and the company that is employing them, right?
If you're going to argue that employees will have an incentive to be better, then I'm not going to call that socialism. I'm just not, because that's not what socialism implies.
And that is, now I didn't use the word socialism. I said I want more employees to own the means of production.
Okay, so what you have to realize that's straight out of the Marxist catalog of words, right?
I know.
So, like, you can see why
I was going to say something, but
you could see why I would jump to bad conclusions when you say something like that.
So, but I would. Sorry, go ahead. Potentially criminal.
No, I was going to say, and I respect that, at least, because you're not like. Are you aware who Vosh is, Victims?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, at least you're not just saying, let's just start a co-op. Co-op magically happens and it works. No, I appreciate that it's a little more than that.
Meanwhile, Vouch has built his social media career and delegated task out in a very capitalistic manner.
So
or like Hassan Piker.
Yeah.
I would go further than say the current ESPP plan in encouraging employee ownership of their corporation. I do think unions are a net good, although I recognize some unions are horribly corrupt, and there's some room for improvement. Let's put it that way, very benignly. But
if
I
unions
don't
were
necessarily
a completely private thing, there would be nothing to argue about at all. We'd have no argument if unions did not have any special privileges with government, which you would say, like, oh, well, they're just going to fire everybody and hire scabs. But if unions are serving their real purpose, that wouldn't be possible.
That involves a lot of buy-in. So, like, one of them, I think you mentioned Denmark, which Denmark has basically universal unions.
Yep.
And the average minimum wage is not set by the government per se, it's set by union negotiating, and its average, last time I looked, was equivalent to $21. But it's set by collective bargaining agreements. That's not a bad model.
Other thing, I know I'm the one that brought up like Denmark and Sweden and stuff, but another reason why that makes shit comparisons to the United States is they are very small, homogenous countries compared to the United States.
Sure. And there's a reason why corporation diversity training is actually designed in a manner to bust unions. If you didn't know that.
I'm kind of curious if you want to kind of elaborate on that.
So, most corporate diversity training, and I've got some documentation on this somewhere. I'd have to look it up for you if you really want it.
I'll take your word for it in the meantime.
Is actually designed to divide employees based on race and sex and think of each other as competitors and enemies to prevent them from collectively organizing into unions. The whole concept was pioneered by Amazon and has now been adopted basically across the ecosystem.
Okay, tell you what.
I hadn't thought about it that way.
I'm going to hijack it for a moment. Free college. Go. Free tuition. What do you guys think?
Who do you want to start?
Go ahead.
My honest opinion is that college has turned into just a certification stamp outside of, unless you're in like a very specific STEM field, right? Um, I I honestly think that they've incentivized colleges to charge way too much tuition to drag people into going to college in order to fund their organization and make their boards make millions of dollars to the point where it's no longer the institution it used to be. And if I was an employer, I would not be looking at college degrees as my primary factor for hiring people.
Sean, you obviously have been in college a lot. What do you think?
No lies detected there at this point. I mean, really, I don't feel what exactly did I gain from going to college, and I don't really feel I did. So I totally agree with Excel. That I mean, we can make college free, but it's got to be worth something, and for people. And I think that's a bigger problem. That even if it's free, it truly does not produce. You don't really come out thinking in a better way or really developed. And I think that's just as cruel for people, that they go in trying to learn something and just kind of like our way schooling is for children in general. It's that Prussian system where it's kind of meant to make just good little workers. I really feel like that's all they did, is just make people sit in a cube farm. So, I mean, free college sounds great, but college needs really retooled, and higher ed needs a reckoning, I think, before really anything can productively be done. And I'll say that even for law school, I think a good portion of law school was a scam. So, yeah, I like the idea of free college, but there's a bigger problem.
You got a Juris Doctorate. What was that like in terms of rigor, in terms of difficulty?
Well, actually, hold on. Excel says I'm doing the chipmunks thing. Do I sound okay to you?
You sound okay now.
You sound better now, but when I typed that,
Okay.
you were sounding like the chipmunks
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just saw it. I didn't realize.
And by the way, we can still understand you. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It was just.
I want to be very clear about
Yeah.
a lot of what I say about college. If college is harder than going to actually being at work 8 hours a day, right? If you actually have to spend more than 8 hours a day on college, then it probably was hard.
Yeah, and for some people it probably was hard. But no, going to law school, I mean, the biggest thing I had to learn was I got through college pretty easy. Was understanding you're there with a bunch of people who are, fairly smart. You can't be a complete dummy and get into law school, even if you test really bad. Getting into law school.
You've seen my videos on Kimberly Motley, right?
Yes, yeah, I have. Even then, that's still fairly smart. I mean, and that was a problem. I didn't fully understand that because I'm the first person in my family that I know of, extended family also, that went this route. So I had to learn. So I remember I'd be in classes and I'd see kids with like flashcards and outlines, and I'd sit there thinking like, this isn't that hard. Like I get it. And then I got to law school and geez, I found out real quick, you got to be that guy because everybody else is doing it. I mean, it doesn't help that in law school you're dealing with a bunch of egotistical people who are prima donnas and want to cut each other's throats to get to the top. And I'm not gonna lie, I was I wanted to beat everybody's ass too. So, but yeah, it's I'd say that was a harder, but I still think that it's the way I understand it from people who went to school 25 years ago, 35, 45 years ago, 50 years ago, and for some of the old timers, hearing how it was way back in the day, education just seemed like it was so much more valuable and challenging for people than it is today. And I think that's a crime. That it's, in ways, college kind of seems like glorified high school, really, as far as the way things are.
Biden has come up. No, I'm sorry, it was Obama who came up with the idea of turning the bachelor's degree, essentially making it the standard. Right. Right now, it's the high school diploma, That's what everybody is expected to get. I mean, it's like an expectation. And of those who get a high school diploma, some will go on to get a bachelor's degree. And it was Obama who said, no, the bachelor's degree should be the standard. And I did not like that one bit. Hey, victims, how about you?
Well,
I can guess how you're going to feel about this, but go ahead.
well, I had been thinking about going to law school until Sean started talking. So the I do think community college should be free because you've got kids who are living at home with their parents still. They can get themselves an education for which they can get a decent job. Um, I'm not so confident on making all college free because the whole idea of college is that it's an investment. Okay. And so when Sean went to law school and spent no doubt a very large amount of money to get his Juris Doctorate, that was an investment in his future earnings as an attorney. And we would expect that his investment there would be repaid, right? Now, there's a couple of different ways you can go about that. So, like, instead of doing a loan, you could do percentage of earnings, right? Instead of Sean having to pay, I'm just making it up, Sean, $1,000 a month on his student loans, they could, pull 8% of his pay to pay for his education in his role. There's another way to think about it, right? But I don't think all college should be free, but I do think community college should be free because there's a lot to be said for having that 2-year degree for a lot of various fields where you can get a good, well-paying job.
Yeah, I agree on the community college thing, except I change it a little bit. It depends on the degree. And you look at the actual demand, the need, and you reimburse students based on that. So you want to be an actress? Fine. You're paying for it. You want to be an electrician? Okay, we'll reimburse you a certain amount of money because we need electricians.
I'm good with that. That's about feeding the collective need, right?
Yeah. So,
Right.
so Johnny, you're like right on par with me when I said like, when it comes to federal student loans or grants, like they need to be targeted towards things that actually need to be done, right? We can't have like 50% of people that are getting these college loans going into gender theory because they're going to graduate and have nothing to offer to the broader society.
By the way, I have taught in places where once you get past a certain week, nobody shows up anymore. They've gotten their loan money. And their only reason why they enrolled was to collect the check. And we need to stop that. And I think my idea would put an end to that for the most part, because those who are going to be electricians, they're only going to get reimbursed. Now, I understand they need certain spending money at the time. So I'm not saying that they wouldn't get any support, but the reimbursement would be based on the demand. And you could get reimbursed for your entire JC experience if you went into welding or something where there's just a lot of demand for it. But you're right. Gender theory, guess what? You're probably going to pay for the whole thing yourself, and you're complaining. Well, you must not be that interested in gender theory, but it's not that important to you or whatever. I don't know. But what I see is a lot of students going in to a lot of degree programs, and they get these student loans. They're never going to be able to pay those back because their field, nobody wants it. I mean, it's just like, how are you going to make a buck? I'm not a person, by the way, who believes that the only purpose of college is to position people for the grind, right? Like industry. I am fully on board with scholarship. That a certain portion of the college experience is about learning, and not everything has to be practical. So I have no problem with requiring students to take certain courses to broaden their horizons. At the same time, when you're majoring in a field program where you're just there because it's comfortable, I have an issue with that, especially when you want me to pay for your tuition when you went to Yale. If you're going to go through a lot of effort to make it as cheap as possible, I might be more interested. But when you're going to a very expensive private college, nah, you're paying your own way at that point. So my idea is this, and I'll let you guys tell me what you think of it. One, trade school free. But again, using the same kind of idea that it's free and you get reimbursements for majoring in things that are in demand. The same thing with JCs. But at that point, from that point on, 4-year colleges, they're on you, which is why you should be going to a JC anyway. These students who come out wanting people to pay their tuition, when they didn't go to a JC to lower the costs, screw them. They went to a 4-year college because of the prestige. The community college wasn't good enough for them. And now they want me to pay for it. I have an issue with that.
All right, I'm going to make a very, very short response to this. I agree with a lot of things you said, Johnny Walker Dread, and the only reason my response is going to be so short is I could have a 3-hour stream on just this topic.
Well, we got time.
I don't have 3 more hours. I actually need to get off of here pretty soon, so I'll pass it around. Yeah. I'll kick it back to the Sean, potentially criminal.
Okay, what about you, Sean? What do you think? I think he's choking on a chicken bone or something, so we're going to have to move on here. Are you okay?
Too much water. Yeah, I went down the wrong pipe.
Either one of you have any opinions on that?
I like that idea, and because I think that would have, that may have been took me down an interesting path. They said, look, 2 years of community college, because I think welding's kind of neat. Like, I play around in the garage. I think it's pretty fun. I've always thought that way. And if they had told me, hey, we'll pay your school, go give it a shot and pick up a job, maybe I went down that road instead. So.
Probably make more money. I know I would have, because I went in as a mechanic, and my friend who went into JC about the same time, he's got like 3 shops. Like, damn it. Should have stuck with it.
Well, if you're welding at a refinery, you make good money. So I know that.
Yeah, the other thing I don't like about Obama's ideal is college is just not meant for everybody. And if you try to make it for everybody, you just lower the rigor. And I have a lot to say about that. But the other, if you look at I think you watched my video on the educational doctorate of Rayshard. No, I'm sorry. What's his name? Richie is his.
Yeah.
It was hysterical, by the way.
You look at that and you think, what came of this? Why do we have this? It's this desire that we have to give people degrees. And so there's this whole body of students out there who want to call themselves doctor, but in no way, shape, or form are they going to be able to complete that kind of coursework and do that kind of research. So they create this sort of, I would call an over-bloated master's degree, and they call it an educational doctorate. So now you get to call them doctor. But my feeling about it is, when I've read a bunch of these things, I don't get the impression that scholarship was really what the student was about. And if you read mine, it's all about scholarship. It's all about a desire to just know this particular topic to a deep fundamental level. I don't get that impression. And even Jill Biden, the president, even said She got the educational doctorate because she wanted to be called doctor. I mean, she wanted to be a part of the club. And
if you read hers, it's not the most flattering either.
I'm sorry. Go ahead again. I'm sorry. Try that again.
If you've read hers, read her work, it's not exactly anything groundbreaking.
No, and I actually have read hers. That's going to be my next video. I mean,
yeah,
it's better than Richie's. Not a lot better, but it's better.
That's fair.
But yeah, it's pretty lean. And the whole idea, by the way, of just giving out a survey and asking people to fill out a survey and collecting the results and writing a doctorate, that's a bunch of horse shit. I am really sick of this. I get emails from this all the time from people wanting me to complete the survey because I'm an EDD candidate and I'm doing a research on this. And can you tell me what you think of? And I've sent more than one email back saying, this is not kosher. This is not professional. If you want to know the true state of this system, you got to march your ass down to Walmart or whatever, and you got to question people. This sending out email survey crap, and they do that constantly. That allows them to generate these doctorates in a month. I've had enough of it. I spent 10 years on mine, and I really get pissed off when I see people like Dr. Ritchie going around crowing about his doctorates and stuff. In my opinion, he doesn't have one. I know. Did you watch the video, by the way, about the one where he got his PhD?
After watching it, Johnny, I've decided that you should call me Dr. Matter.
Well, might as well. Hell, I mean, have you ever written a letter to a friend of yours?
A couple times.
Doctorate. There you go.
Hey, to be fair, technically, I can be called a doctor as well. It's a terminal degree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, and by the way, a lot of people are talking about only medical doctors can call themselves doctor. No, actually, doctor is used as a scholarship deal, predates that of medical field. So really, I mean, it's really reserved for, if anything, the people who have gone to advanced study. But yeah, I mean, I don't go by doctor myself, but I got one. But it just kind of pisses me off that I see this rise of the phony doctorate. By the way, there are colleges who give out group doctorates. 4 or 5 of them getting a doctorate that they just hand out because they all were involved in the project.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that is a factory. That's an assembly line of people getting these doctorates and stuff. And at that point, you wonder, go ahead.
You should go by Doctor because Dr. Dread is a boss name.
Yes, it is. That's good.
Yeah, or Judge Dredd. I should have been a judge, right? Although I would keep in mind, there's a Judge Dredd that's also a ska musician. That's who I would name myself after. But yeah, Dr. Dredd would be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind that at all. But yeah, I mean, and again, why are they doing this? Money. Because if you give doctorates to these people, you get donations. Mm-hmm. The Bidens. I mean, are they going to turn her down? Who on that committee is going to tell her, no, I'm sorry, I'm not signing off on this?
Especially the University of Delaware. Like, who butters their bread?
That's his alma mater.
Wait, Johnny Walker Dread, did they hear the word ska come out of your mouth?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a reggae DJ. Used to be.
I love the ska.
You didn't know that?
No, I did, actually. It's kind of funny because you play all the dub stuff and I really like it. But
oh, yeah.
This is one of those questions that you're going to give the right answer to. What came first, ska or reggae?
Ska.
Yep. Almost everybody gets it wrong.
So I'll give you one. What was between ska and reggae?
Rhythm.
Blue Beat. Yep.
I was almost there. Like you have New Orleans soul. Like a lot of the stuff came in between.
Yeah, I used to be a reggae DJ, and I still am pretty heavy into it. But really, black metal is my thing. So, you know,
That's also amazing because I love a lot of metal as well.
Bellacore, dude, check out Bellacore from Australia. Oh my God,
I'll look into it, but like I was more into the old school metal, like I don't know, like Black Flag, or hardcore. Actually, it was
well, that's punk,
not really
yeah.
metal.
Yeah.
Kind of punk, but not quite.
Agent Orange, NOFX, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Good old days.
NoFX is pure punk.
Yeah, a little second generation there. But I go back to the 1970s on it. The Dickies. I've been to like 10 of their concerts. And by the way, I think we're kind of running out of steam here.
I purposely changed the topic to like something else because we've been going on for.
We have been going on
Jesus
for
Christ,
a while.
dude! You've been going for what, like 3 hours now?
Yeah,
3 hour live stream to me is a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
Do any of you guys watch Adam and Sitch?
Yes, I do.
Not really. No,
I don't understand how they
I don't know how
can
they
fucking
keep
go for 10
No.
fucking hours.
No, and then they go
It's
the next day for
insanity.
like another 6. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like they'll do a response, like a 20-minute response video, and it turns into another 10-hour video. Right? The video they're responding to is only 20 minutes long, but their video is 10 hours.
I tell you what's harder. Read the comments section for 10 minutes. Oh my God. You know, I tuned into Adam and Stitch once and looked at the comments. There is no way in the world that you could ever parse what the hell they're talking about. And
they go a little bit too deep, which is something I learned not to do. So like when I was doing like the other streams with Irate Prostate, the channel you went on, which earlier when I introduced myself, I was part of Irate Prostate. He was a guy. He had like a nice little lineup of streams he did. They were all very different. We did our critical theory thing on Tuesdays. He passed away, which is why I stopped streaming. But anyway, like he would sit there, like he would like break it up into these like little things or whatever. Adam and Stitch, they don't break it up. Right? They just inject everything into one stream and it goes for 10 hours. And like, I don't know how you can watch it.
It's called stream of consciousness, right? You just roll it out.
And I like their clips. They make good points. I agree with them on a lot of things. It's just how did they go so long?
I don't know. And it goes
I can't handle it.
Like they don't normally have people jump in. Sometimes they do, but usually it's just
they'll have Aiden Paladin, which is like somebody that was actually a friend of our old channel. Like she actually joined us on stream a couple times. She'll join in, and it was a big, like, it would still go on for 10 hours, and I know how she would do it because she's fucking basically a meth addict. Well, she's not on drugs, but she's naturally just wired that way, is what I'm trying to say. But I couldn't do it.
On there. Yeah, and those guys, and they'll just, I don't know how. Yeah, because a lot of times it's just them talking with each other. And I've been in a car before when they started up, and I was driving, I forget where. I had to stop after a while, and I put it back on, and they were still got the same fucking subject, like 4.5 hours later, and I was already 2 states away.
See, my problem is with them is it's like an inside joke they're talking about, and I don't understand what the hell was going on. I guess I'm just not connected enough. So I listened to it for about 5 minutes, and I don't figure it out, and I just, the hell with it. Here's the problem I have with it. There is no concern for the viewer at all. They're talking to each other, and if people want to listen to us, they can.
It makes it sound really honest. That's one thing I like
Yes.
about it.
True.
They do
true.
Yes.
They do have after they do a stream. These are harder to find actually because if you subscribe to them, like if they're live, it just shows up blatantly when you go to YouTube. You can go back to their channel though. They do have supercut videos where they get it down to about an hour, which is I guess the points in the video where they think were the most important. So
Yeah, I can't handle it. I mean, I guess I'm just not hip.
we've already gone too long. In fact, this is like goes back from my time when Tom Pino was in here earlier, and I was doing his channel, but I was doing all his tech, so I was doing everything on OBS for him. Especially as a small channel, like an hour and a half was like the limit, right? So an hour and a half like gave you a good amount of time to talk to your live audience, but it wasn't so long that it was intimidating for people to watch it afterwards. So at about an hour and a half is the time we thought that would get you the most viewers for your stream. In fact, Johnny, I dare you to try that hypothesis.
Well,
So you're
actually,
saying an hour and a half, huh?
Hour and a half.
I think it'd also be easier to get guests because they don't think they're having to commit their entire night.
You actually feel
Yeah.
bad that somebody way cooler than me, Nathan DeBruin, was on. But we were talking about something I don't think he really knew about. I think that's why he left.
Yeah.
And if we would have just waited a little bit longer.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I felt that way. I'm not gonna lie, like Johnny, I got on Nick Ricada. It's like he goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and I'm like, like you can't tap out. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
But no, when I do my streams like Thursday nights at 9:30, I may as well plug it. Yeah, I try to stick to like that hour and a half, and sometimes I run a little bit over, but I feel like if I, at that point, it's you're kind of just talking to yourself. You're not really engaging, and yeah, I feel like people do tend to watch it if I go and I stick to the hour and a half versus an hour and 45 minutes or 2 hours. I think that 90 minutes is good.
You realize we've been talking about how we've been going overtime for the last half hour.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
we're too late right now, but
Yeah.
one of
I
my
think
theories
it's
is an hour and a half, like I work, doing like a regular office job. An hour and a half is I show up to work and I have busy work to do for the first hour and a half of my day, and I can listen to it, and then I get a break.
Well, the nice thing about an hour and a half also is I could just post the video up and it's not going to intimidate people from watching the recording as well. So, yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I think also I don't do a lot of these. So there's sort of an emphasis on trying to talk about too many topics. So if I did this more often, maybe I would be doing less of that.
You could get a double doctorate by studying the efficacy of hour and a half recordings.
You probably could.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, let's go ahead and then bring it to a close then, because I think you're all right. I mean, we pretty well have talked out what we need to say. So I'll tell you what, some final mentions about your channels, potentially. How about you?
All right. Well, I know for those of you out there, I think one of the actual people commented, Clown Roll. It's actually somebody who subscribed to me. I think that he thought it was cool I was here. Yeah, potentially criminal. Give me a subscribe during the day if there's a trial going. I generally stream it. I'll comment on it as it's going. But I like putting out videos, kind of talk about certain topics, trying to educate people, and just I'll have fun stuff. So I'm also on Twitter under the same name.
All right, victims.
I don't have a channel, but I do exist on Twitter under the same name. I'm still talking about victims, especially Kyle Rittenhouse, because of so much misinformation. So I don't really have anything extra to add except that. Thanks for inviting me on.
All right. How about you, Excel?
Bitch, I don't know shit.
That's the Excel I was looking for. Is that all you're gonna say?
Yeah, you can follow me at Sean Tizzle on Twitter, but my time as a YouTube streamer has been relegated to when Johnny Walker Dread asked me to stream, or maybe the Tom Pinoid guy. Right, I've been a part of many 5,000 subscriber or less YouTube channels, so that's where I'm at. I'm not that interesting.
Mhm. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and do the last here. I'm Johnny Walker Dread. Subscribe to my channel. I do a lot of Kyle Rittenhouse stuff. I do a lot of, police shootings is one of the things I really enjoy talking about, analysis and breakdowns. And lately, I've been tearing up people's doctorates. So go ahead
Yes, you
and
have.
subscribe into my channel. And I guess I'll see y'all later.
Thank you,
Have a
and
good
thanks
night,
for the
everybody.
follow, potentially criminal.
You're welcome. Pleasure to meet you guys. And yeah, Excel, that song you put up, that's a banger. I like it.
Oh,
Nice.
glad you liked it. I actually just wanted Johnny Walker Dread to watch it because
I didn't.
he would love. I think he would hear the ska / dub / reggae influence on my bass lines.
Why don't you direct message me the song?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. Who is it by?
Me.
Oh, by you. Oh, okay. All right.
It was a long
All
time
right.
ago, but it's
Well, no, I was just saying it's not something I would recognize.
no, not
Yeah,
at all. Like I have a few things you would recognize. I think you'd like it actually. I thought I had already shown you some of this stuff. I guess not.
You might have. All right, everybody, take care.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.